Thank you, everyone, for being here. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. So I'm going to use my gavel because I never have. Keep it entertaining tonight. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I've asked Zach Smallwood to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Zach. Okay, we're going to go ahead and continue on with our first item of approval of minutes for council meeting November 16th, 2021. If I can get a motion.
I will move approval of the minutes,
Thank you, Diane. Oh.
November 16th, 2021.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. Brooke?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and start off with special recognition. First item on the agenda is the Murray City Council Employee of the Month. And I will have Brett Hills present with Blaine.
Justin, can we have you come up also? How are you?
Good, you?
Good. Justin's been with this. Come on here. This is your night, not mine or Blaine. So, 17 years with the power department, and we started this program about 8 years ago, and we just want to recognize you, Justin, and show our appreciation for your service to the city. And so I always kid around and say, here's the most important part is that $50 gift certificate.
Thank you.
And then that's your certificate, and your name will go back there on there. But from the council, we just wanted to show appreciation and thanks for your 17 years of service. That's a good long time to be working with Blaine. So we know that that's long. And so you're going to get a chance to say something, but we're going to let Blaine go first, and then. But anyway, let's give Justin a big hand right now.
Thank you. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Council. Justin, like Brett mentioned, started his journey with Murray Power in 2004. He came from Sanpete County. Well, you can. Yeah. Sanpete County, and he has roots back there. He goes back there often. He still raises cattle and farming and everything else, and steering and everything else. Yeah. Justin was made a foreman in 2011, and so he's been a line crew foreman. And with that adds the responsibility of safety to your guys, and that's a key part of that. Justin has been involved. I want to say Huggy so bad. Just do it. Okay, his nickname is Huggy. Just do it. And your brother's name is funny too.
Just Jason.
No, it isn't. Lumpy.
Well, he had that when he's on the football team.
Okay. Justin has been involved not only with Murray City linemen, but he's also been involved with the line school. He judges some of the hotline school. He's been involved with hotline training as well as instructing. You presently teach at UVCC, right?
Salt Lake
Community College, a lineman school. So we have a seasoned guy right here who not only knows how to do it, but teaches. Many of you are interested in the Navajo, Light Up Navajo. Justin's one of the gentlemen that went down there and spent days. I've talked to others and said that's kind of a life-changing experience to go down there and to provide power to those people. His wife Ashley's here, and he has 3 children. I'll let him maybe talk a little bit about his family. I know he's into motorcycles, only because you got injured once and you were on light duty for quite a while.
Right as I started.
That's right. His daughter's also involved with softball, and so he's involved with his family. He's involved with all types of things, but I think his roots are still in Sanpete County. But as long as he'll stay in Murray, we'll keep him. He's a good employee. He's one of the leaders. We have 3 line foremen. He's one of the 3. And I'm really pleased that he would go and teach other linemen because that means a lot that he knows the stuff and he wants to move the trade along the lineman trade. So, Justin, I'm glad you're part of Murray City. Can't believe the 17 years, though. I'll mention one other thing. In 2011, when we offered Justin the position, I'm going to embarrass him. We called him into the office, and Bruce Turner and I offered him the position of being a foreman. Many people would, I could say, hey, thanks, give me a high five. Justin started to cry. You know, that meant a lot to him. He did.
Tell him, yeah.
He did. Ashley, you haven't seen that side of him, have you? But he did. He did. He was touched that he was that. So, and that's not a lie. That's
Still
true.
touched.
Okay, Justin, thanks.
You're welcome.
You get whoops. Thanks.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Working at Murray's, it's a big deal. It's the largest utility in the valley. It's the only one, but the guys that you work with is where it's at. You know, it's the kids you teach, and you get to see them go on and get a job and move on, and it's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for letting me work here.
You're here forever. Okay.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, and if you have family here, I think it's just your wife. Hi, Ashley. And you don't have to stay, but you're welcome to stay. You don't have to stay. You guys can go and use your $50 gift card for a fun meal, a nice meal. All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. It's so fun to watch you do that. And it's going to be fun moving forward and how we can continue to work together on that, because it's always fun to highlight the employee. So thank you, Brett, for that. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to consider a joint resolution of the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City expressing gratitude and appreciation to Dale Cox for his contribution to the community as council member. Diane Turner will be presenting. Diane.
I have a choice.
No, go on up.
Whereas Dale Cox represented District 2 as a Murray City Council member from January 1, 2018 through December 31st, 2021. Not too long. And whereas Murray City wishes to express its admiration and appreciation for these years of dedicated work and community service performed by Mr. Cox as an elected city council member, and whereas during Dale's term as a council member, he served in various key positions, including city council chair and vice chair, redevelopment agency chair and vice chair, and municipal building authority president, as well as committee member on the capital improvement program committee, serving in each capacity with a genuine commitment on behalf of Murray City. And whereas Dale stepped forward to serve on several interlocal agency boards, including the Utah League of Cities and Towns Legislative Policy Committee and the Murray Area Chamber of Commerce. And whereas in each capacity, Dale served with dignity, integrity, and genuine dedication on behalf of Murray City residents. He demonstrated exceptional judgment on every issue, ensuring an improved quality of life for the community he loves. And whereas Dale's dedication to advocating for fair pay and benefits for all city employees has not gone unnoticed. And his expertise in negotiating and dealing with people will long be remembered as a model of exemplary leadership. And whereas, thank heavens for Jan, Dale's wife, who has stood by his side and been a sounding board for him whenever necessary. And in return, it is with great hope that they will now be able to enjoy the use of their beautiful motorhome, that their yard be kept as beautiful as ever, and that Jan may add a few more tours to the honey-do list. And whereas Dale's quirky jokes and sense of humor will be greatly missed. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City that the city express its most sincere appreciation and gratitude to Dale Cox for his 4 years of unparalleled service and contributions that are recognized now and into the future. I'll now send it to the council for approval.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve a resolution for Dale? Anyone?
Okay. Let me get to it. I'll move that we approve the joint resolution of the mayor and municipal council of the Murray City expressing gratitude and appreciation to Dale Cox for his contributions to the community as a city council member.
And I'll second.
Oh, sorry. I have a first and a second.
Aye.
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 I'm sure you can vote. We'll skip you. Aye.
This has been hard for me. Anyway, it is passed, approved, and adopted this 7th day of December, 2021. Would you?
Dale, please say something. I welcome you.
First of all, they aren't quirky jokes, by the way. I've been very proud to work with the councils I've worked with, the current council and the 2 members that were here prior to what we have now. Everybody on this council has always worked hard for the best of Murray. They've always put Murray first. There's been, we don't disagree or agree on everything, but we always work to put Murray first. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to do for Murray City and what we've been able to do for the employees of Murray City. So with that, I'll sit down and let Brett have a shot.
Anyone on the council before I close this item? No?
It's been an honor working with you, Dale. It's been fun, and I'm afraid we'll still see you after this, but oh well. Just kidding you. Kinda.
You can still contact Dale till the end of the month. He is not done with his job. No, I really appreciate you. I personally have learned and we've had it out, but it's been good in the sense that I've learned from all of that and continue to learn from you. So I know you won't be too far. And I'm really appreciative of everything you've done and everything I've learned from you. So thank you. All right. Anyone else? No? Close it?
As I said, that was really, really hard for me. For some reason, I don't know why I get emotional at the idea of your leaving. I mean, no, Dale's been such an asset. And I really have appreciated working with you, and I've learned a lot. And I think you've learned a lot too. It's been a very reciprocal relationship, I think, for all of us. So thank you so much for serving. And I'm going to miss you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been an experience. And like you said, I've learned a lot. It's amazing. It's amazing but you come in with an idea and you don't know what you don't know, and you get on this council, and every day you learn, and the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. So it's always a learning process.
Thank you, Dale. All right. I'm going to move it over to Diane let me read it. Consider a joint resolution of the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City expressing gratitude and appreciation to Brett Hales for his contributions to the community as a city council member. And Diane will be presenting again. Go ahead, Brett. You can walk up with her.
I know Brett usually takes this walk to honor other people, so now we get to honor you. Whereas Brett Hales represented District 5 as a Murray City Council member from January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2021. And whereas Murray City wishes to express its admiration for those years of steadfast work and community-oriented service performed by Mr. Hales, and whereas during Brett's term as a council member, he served in various key positions, including City Council Chair and Vice Chair, Redevelopment Agency Chair and Vice Chair, Budget and Finance Committee Vice Chair, Municipal Building Authority Vice President, Treasurer, Secretary, and Trustee of the Municipal Building Authority, as well as a committee member on the Capital Improvement Program Committee. And whereas Brett represented Murray City by serving on several interlocal agency boards, including the Association of Municipal Councils, Business Enhancement Committee, the Mayor's Electrical Board, Utility Board, and the Murray Area Chamber of Commerce. And whereas he has served in each capacity with dignity, integrity, and genuine dedication on behalf of Murray City, ensuring the decisions he made would leave our community a better place to work and live. And whereas Brett has always put his residents first and has worked hard to ensure that everyone in Murray City has equal access to the wonderful city services and community activities that the city offers. And whereas Brett's positivity and ability to be kind and inclusive comes naturally and without judgment. Whereas his wife, Cindy, has been a dedicated partner and offered him an abundance of support, encouragement, and wise advice during his council service. Thank heavens we all love Cindy. And whereas Brett enjoys traveling, attending concerts, and spending time with his family. And whereas Brett's friendliness, stories, and personality will be greatly missed. And now, therefore, it be resolved by the Mayor and Municipal Council of Murray City that the city express its most sincere appreciation and gratitude to Brett Hales for his 10 years of unparalleled service and contributions that are recognized now and into the future. Rosalba.
Thank you. If I can take a motion to consider the resolution.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution of the Mayor and Municipal City Council expressing gratitude and appreciation to Brett Hales.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Brooke.
Aye.
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 And now he has his work cut out for him.
Does that mean I'm through?
No,
Oh.
you're not.
Oh.
You just began.
I'm just beginning, huh? Well, thank you. That was nice. Diane's right. I would much rather be on the other end where I'm given the award or whatever we're doing. But you know what? I didn't even tell Cindy about. She'd have been here. I didn't even tell her about this. I kind of forgot, to be honest with you, about this part. But we do have I lost a brother last week, and so we will. Excuse me. We'll be sorry. Isn't that interesting? I don't think I've hardly shed a tear knowing, because we knew this was coming. But anyway, so we're going to be heading out to out of state in about when this is over. So if you keep your comments, I'm kidding you. I'm totally kidding you. I'm totally kidding. We can stay as long as we need to stay. Anyway, so we will be heading out. So I won't have the opportunity to talk afterwards. I would love to do that, but I have to head out immediately. But I am really appreciative. Just even yesterday, Doug and I had the opportunity to meet with Rachel Moreau and Lloyd Jones, and it was so cool because I thought, you don't always agree with people, but we left that meeting as pretty good friends, and I thought it was kind of cool that that's how it's supposed to be. You get people that think just because you don't agree with them, then you have to hate. And that's so far off from what I believe, so far off. And we witnessed that yesterday at our meeting. And I thought that was kind of cool. So I wanted to, and I witnessed that with a lot of people. So thank you. It's been an honor. And I look forward to seeing you for a few more years. So thank you.
While Brett walks back, does anyone on the council have anything to add?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun being around Brett. But let me tell everybody, if he ever invites you to a concert in Wendover and it's Engelbert Humperdinck, don't go.
I have to tell you, just because he was 106 does not mean he still can't sing. So,
Yeah, it does. He can't move very well either.
yeah, really. Well, I can barely move now, and he was 106. So,
I will say that's what I'll miss is these two together. Just in wherever we were, you guys were always such great gentlemen. And so I really appreciate that. My husband has a lot to learn. So please, I'm glad you're still going to be around. Not that he's not, but he can learn, he can smooth out the edges. So thank you. Perfect. Diane?
I'm going to miss you on the council, but I'm going to get to see you in other capacities. So it's not quite as emotional, and I wish you luck in whatever you want to do.
well, thank you. I'm looking forward to working together with the council. So thank you.
Exciting times to come. And we'll still see Dale. I hope anyways. All right, we're going to go ahead on and move on to citizen comments. I'm going to kind of give a brief just explanation. Citizen comments are open to anyone, of course, but we do have 4 public hearings. The last item was the RC Willie has been postponed. So if you are here to make a public comment on any of the items on the agenda, please know that we will have since they are public hearings, you'll have time to make public comments on that specific hearing as well. I just wanted to let you guys know. And also please sign in. I know there's a sign up sheet going around. This helps us too. And if you are planning on making a comment, Jennifer has boards up here. She'll show you. Everybody will have 3 minutes to speak, and Jennifer will time you. And I will, since there are a lot of people, I'll just help maintain that time frame as well. So if you're cutting to the end, please wrap it up. I know your issues are important, but please go ahead and continue on that with that dialogue with us as well if you don't get everything in. So let's go ahead and open the citizen comments section of the portion of the evening. So please, again, please make sure to fill out your paperwork. You go ahead, state your name and at least your district so we are aware. Thank you.
My name is Dylan Barney. I live at 4902 South Box Elder Street in District Number 3. I'd like to open by giving my appreciation on this 80th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor to those who served and died there and those that served at home. Like my mother that is now deceased, that served as a overhead crane operator at Geneva Steel. So I'm grateful for their service and what they did to protect this country. I'd like to also thank the mayor and his staff for having Deputy Chief give me a call about the parking problem on Box Elder Street between Vine Street and 4th Avenue. Since the basketball place went in, people are parking on both sides of the street and on 4th Avenue, making it only possible for one lane of traffic to go through, creating a serious safety concern. There are some no parking signs, but people still park there. And as far as I know, nobody has gotten any tickets. And I heard rumors that even if they did get tickets, the judge would dismiss them. Other parking problems within the city are at Murray Crossing. In front of that, where they have a 2-hour parking, there's people that park there where people that would want to go to a business could park. Or in Fireclay, there's parking problems there. As I drove by both of those facilities tonight, I noticed that there was the businesses that were on the lower floors that were supposed to be multi-use. There's very few businesses there. It's very, very seldom used. Which brings me to my concern about the development number 4 on the agenda tonight, as far as the development and people parking and where they're going to park and how many will overflow into the Murray City Park and cause a congestion there, and the added traffic that they may be starting to use the roads through the park as a traffic lane thoroughfare rather than people to go there and enjoy the park and be able to walk across the street in safety. I recognize that there needs to be some economic development in Murray, but it also needs to be balanced against the safety of the citizens. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for your comments. Anyone else? Please come on up. State your name and at least your district, please.
My name is Kate Sturgeon. I'm in District 5. I just want to voice my concern about how the development in general has been going in Murray and what concern there is for the residents who have been here rather than the 300, 500. The zoning process has just been incredible to watch. I watch the planning and zoning meetings. I watch the decisions that you all have to make. But I don't see that there's a lot of concern about the people who have been here for decades. It's bring more people in, bring more people in, bring more people in. We are going through a drought that the governor of the state requested everyone to cut back their water. Now, is this just this year? Is this going forward? We don't know. But having 300 or 500 or more unit apartment buildings, even though they're very efficient in their water use, what about the water for the people who have lived here? And now on the agenda is radiopharmaceutical. And how are you going to take care of that waste? Where is that going? It has a long half-life. And I don't want to see Murray become glowing in the valley for different reasons. I just want to see some concern for the citizens who have lived here, paid taxes here, had their families here. I know that growth is inevitable, but I'd like to see a little more emphasis on smart growth. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Anyone else wanting to make a public comment? Please come on up. We'll collect your paperwork here shortly after. Please state your name and your district, please.
Good evening, Beverly Krangle. I'm in District 5 also. And I appreciate the comments that were made previously. A bigger, as big a concern is the increase in traffic and the lack of attention to any of the safety guidelines that continue to be put out by different agencies, the federal government, Granite School District. We have Vision Zero, which has been advocating that we have to change our way of thinking about traffic. I want to quote from Jeremy Harris of KUTV. Recent crosswalk crashes highlight need for drivers to pay attention, victim's mother says. Another one, police in several Utah cities are investigating incidences of drivers striking pedestrians in crosswalks. And this was in the Tuesday, November 2nd report. Another federal study concludes U.S. must change policies to curb epidemic of deaths caused by excessive motorist speeds. And then the subtitle was urge states and regulators to act quickly on the National Transportation Safety Board recommendations to save thousands of lives annually. My understanding is that engineers have been taught to get people from the suburbs to the cities as fast as they can. And the answer has been in the past, more asphalt, more pavement, more asphalt, more pavement. Chop down trees, whatever it takes to let cars go faster and more cars. With the later numbers coming in of all of our population growth, we have to think differently. We have to think about more transportation issues that will allow people to get where they need to go, because change is inevitable. But we can't always think about a car for every single errand or every single place we have to go. And more short-term answers like even smaller vans and buses is combined with bigger buses. And that's part of the issue now being considered for Little Cottonwood Canyon, as well as Wasatch Boulevard and other places where they're dealing with, they don't want just more asphalt, because that doesn't solve the problem. And with our winter inversion, think what our air is going to be like if all they do is widen the roads and add more and more cars. So there are many things that should be considered prior to making all these changes in zoning and high density growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Jennifer, do you have her paperwork too? Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
My name is Richard Krangel. I reside at 1628 East Vine Street, and I've been a resident there for many decades. I affirm everything my wife just said. We've talked about it multiple times at our kitchen table, and I want to simply enlarge on a single issue involved with the widening of Vine Street, and that is the speed, the hazard, and the danger caused by speeding traffic. Even though it's posted at 35 miles an hour, they typically drive at least 50 miles an hour, and they turn that 7.5 blocks into a drag strip. I've inquired before about the feasibility of installing speed bumps on Vine Street, and the only answer, which I think is totally implausible, is that it makes it difficult to remove snow. Now, I think that is not a credible answer. I think the citizens need to insist upon reducing that speed, and speed bumps would be something that would be very effective, because police officers show up there approximately every 6 months because they just don't have the manpower apparently. But it is nothing but a token appearance that does not reduce the speed. Several decades ago, a resident who lived contiguous to Vine Street on Rodeo Lane, Professor Rex Campbell, was teaching at the university, and he would always walk to the bus stop up on 13th, and then he would walk home, and he would do that every day. And he was walking along the north side of Vine Street when he was hit by a speeding driver, a hit and run. Professor Campbell was knocked into the open irrigation ditch at that time and languished there for many hours in the freezing weather. He never recovered from his broken bones and his internal injuries. I did not want to see another person riding a bicycle protected only by a white strip painted on the asphalt to become another casualty. I think we must insist that the speed is reduced on Vine Street in the interest of protecting the citizens and their children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody next? Okay. Come on up. State your name and your district.
Sure. My name is Mike Cajano. I'm in District 3. So my specific concerns around some of the rezoning, some of the projects that are proposed for housing. I understand there's a lot of emotion going around. I've watched some of these live streams prior, so I'm going to try to stick to facts, right? So we, unlike a lot of folks here, haven't lived in Murray all that long, about 5 years. Education has now become towards the forefront. We've got a young family that we're starting. And frankly, we've tried to leave Murray because of the downturn in the school system. We got caught in, just on the other side of the housing boom. It's no longer feasible for us. So trying to keep the emotion out of it. Some of the things we've looked at, Parkside, some of the schools that this would affect, just numbers. So right off of U.S. News World Reports, there's 607 elementary schools in the state of Murray. Parkside ranks 580th. 1 in 4 students are proficient in English. 1 in 4 is proficient in math. Right. So you've got to take a look at the type of student that's going to be coming in when you're looking at the larger plans and rezoning. So it's not the specific demographics. I saw some comments online about, folks took offense that, renters are this versus homeowners, things like that. Emotion aside, you take a look at the sort of the downturn, what's done in Murray versus some of the other areas. You take a look at, I've reached out to some of the folks on the council before, and they've cited the pandemic, things like that. You don't see the downturn in some of the other school districts. So that's my primary concern. Some of the folks that have kids coming up, taking a look at the school systems. What's the influx of folks going to do to those systems? What's that going to do to the families that we'd like to move in? We're in Murray now to stay, so we'd like to do our best to help with that. So we want to be cognizant of that. So that's my primary concern. I just wanted to get that out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Anyone else? And Mike, I think Patty is going to go around and have you fill out a form. All right, go ahead. Name and district.
It's Renee Fassbender. I'm in Council District number 4, and I'm here to speak in regards to, I believe it's number 4, with a change from the area with Best Buy and other retail being changed to possibly, the proposal to have it be high density, which my main concern before this last election was about revenue for Murray and what brings the better revenue. And just one of my concerns with this change is that them with Best Buy or retail in there that brings better revenue for Murray, we put in maybe a one-time or whatever smaller gain with high density housing. And I think Murray needs to be real careful about losing prime retail property to housing, and in particular high density. And I am concerned about how that might impact the schools and other things. And the comment about the parks, I think that we've got a lot of concerns, and the parking. I know, I forget what it's called, but over there on the other side of 4500 South, where no emergency vehicles can even get through. I was struggling to get through in my little car, and I think that that's some pathetic planning. I was anxious for a change in some of the council because I have concerns I don't believe we're getting addressed, and my family's had business property. We've been very unhappy about some of the council decisions, but I think these things right here, the prime retail property, I just don't think that that's the place to put high density. So I hope you consider my concern. Thank you.
I keep turning this off. Sorry. Thank you, Renee. Anyone else?
My name is
Oh.
Rachel Moreau, and I'm from District 4. I was going to wait until the agenda item specifically talking about the Point at 53rd property, but I don't know how long the meeting's going to go, so I'm going to do it now. I appreciated meeting with Brett and Doug yesterday, and I hope that wasn't Brett saying that we disagree on everything, because I don't feel like we did. I felt like there was a lot of agreement, and I really appreciated his willingness to sit down. I know his schedule is tight, and Doug was very knowledgeable, and I very much appreciated their time and also the service of Brett on the council and his ongoing service as mayor. So I have gotten more involved with city planning conversations than I ever had anticipated that I would, but because of some very involved and robust conversations on the Murray Citizens Facebook page, I ended up having a dialogue with the owner and developer of the Point at 53rd, and I found him to be very receptive to citizen feedback. He spent a lot of time talking to me and a colleague of mine about our concerns. And of course, we were not in favor of high density. We're not in favor of more apartments next to the park of any kind. And he took our concerns and under advisement, and he went to revise his plans. This is what he's telling me. And went to his architects and revised some of his plans, which if that is going to be maintained going forward is very creditable. My main concern in Murray is not just the overbuild of apartments and high density and all of those things, but it's also the preservation of our historical resources, which are getting fewer and fewer with every year that passes. We just lost another piece of our history, which was the WPA built stone wall that was the only remnant of the Bonneview School and was torn down a couple weeks ago. That there was no reason that had to go. That could have been preserved, and I'm very concerned that we're losing our history. And I think that the opportunity to do smart development and incorporate our historical buildings that we have can also address things like the need for affordable housing. I think that there are efforts that old buildings can be taken and put into more affordable housing spaces than new builds, and they're of greater quality. I'm just going to wrap up by saying that I think the master plan needs to be reviewed and consulted, and I don't think it's out of bounds in terms of money. Doug Hill told me that yesterday that it costs approximately $180,000 to review a master plan and revise it. I think that the cost in terms of
wrap it up. Sorry.
expense of not doing that is going to be far-reaching, and we need to take that seriously. Thanks.
So just a reminder, item number 4 is a public hearing and it also welcomes comments. So Rachel, please, let's continue on with your comments at that point as well. So anyone else, please, this is great conversation and let's go ahead and continue on if anybody else wants to make a comment. And again, I welcome you to do it again at the public hearing. Anyone else? Thank you. State your name and district, please.
My name is Ryan Brimley of District 3. We've been in Murray for 15, 16 years or so and have loved our time here. Still continue to. I understand the issue with the high density housing. I don't understand all of the reasons that go into the decisions and all of the construction. But I am quite aware of the impact of it. And one of the biggest things is on the schools. So primarily Parkside Elementary has the majority of the high density housing in Murray, bar none. It's a major impact on that school. That also flows into Hillcrest, junior high, and then ultimately into the high school. The issue is, that hasn't been addressed that I've seen, is the culture can't be established. When you have a constant churn of students coming in and out of those schools, you can't establish a good, solid culture. And that, I think, is one of the biggest downfalls of those schools, is challenges along those lines. I don't think it has anything to do with the socioeconomics or the solid backgrounds of the homeowner versus an apartment dweller. I don't think that's the issue, but the culture is a major thing that has to be considered. How can we spread that load across all of our schools? And I don't know the answers to these things, but I hope that these concerns are taken into effect or into account. And just another side comment that has just been in the back of my head. I go into the park from Vine Street nearly every day to pick up kids up from swim and whatnot. Those stone pillars are a major hazard. People trying to get in and out of the park onto Vine Street, they're an obstruction of view. They are causing, I've seen 2 very near accidents just recently. It's just a concern. I don't know what they're there for. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those comments. And I also welcome you to contact the school board as well about them. All right. Thank you. State your name and your district, please.
Leanne Parker Reed, District 3. I wasn't really going to get up, but after all these comments, you just feel like you need to say something. I've been in the city for over 30 years. We have seen a lot of changes, some good, some a little bit challenging. I appreciate all of you serving in the community and continue to serve. Some of the issues that I see with the schools is we're lower on staff. We're taking an influx of people from all over the place in Murray. And like the one gentleman said, Parkside School is quite, they get a lot of diversity, and they've always done that. And one of the reasons I brought my kids to Parkside was the diversity. I really enjoyed that. But we still have to teach our kids, and they need to have that educational experience like everybody else. And sometimes we need to just focus on that part of it instead of always bringing more and more and more. And instead of seeing what's happening now, what can we do now to keep our generations happy and going. There's obviously a lot of zoning issues that are going on now, more and more, because our city is growing. And we are, even though we are a landlocked community, there's still places that we are growing, including the little spot by my house now. The Mash Farms is now being developed, and that's been empty for many years. And I am feeling those growing pains right now. Anyway, I think the one lady said something about the master plan, and I really agree with that. That is something, many years ago, they put plans in place, the master plans, and things that we need to look at. And I don't know I haven't been in the councils for a while. I don't know how much we've looked at that, where we're at on that, but I think it's important that we probably take a look at it now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Parker. All right. Anyone else? I'm going to count to 3. 1. I do this with my little one all the time. 2. 2.5. Okay, 3. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our public hearing portion of the evening. And thank you, everyone. Again, I acknowledge that we're hearing you. So, and thank you for all your comments. We're going to start off with public hearing number 1. Consider an ordinance amending the Murray City Standard Land Use Code related to adding a land use category for radiopharmaceutical manufacturing and products and amending section 17.144, 020, 17.148, 0.020, 17.160, 0.020, and 17.174, 020 of the Murray City Municipal Code, identifying radiopharmaceutical manufacturing and products as permitted uses in specific zoning districts. Presented by Susan Nixon, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Council, for this opportunity. And for those who are present, thank you and welcome. This application was submitted from IHC Health Services, a joint venture between IHC and Pharmalogic, for a new land use category and text amendment, and also to include that land use category in 4 of our existing zoning districts. The use that has been proposed is radiopharmaceutical manufacturing and products. We're proposing to add it to the general office, the hospital, CD, and our PO professional office zoning districts. So what are radiopharmaceuticals? Wow. This has been a learning experience for us over the last year. And like Dale Cox said, you don't know what you don't know. Wow. This was one we definitely didn't know, but was really interesting and has been a great opportunity to learn a little more about, which I think is going to be very helpful and very positive contribution to Murray. So radiopharmaceuticals, or medicinal radiocompounds, are a group of pharmaceutical drugs containing radioactive isotopes. Radiopharmaceuticals can be used as diagnostic and therapeutic agents. The proposal for the land use number and definition is number 2834, which the definition is highlighted up there in the red as radiopharmaceutical manufacturing, preparations, meaning an entity that is engaged in manufacturing, preparing, propagating, compounding, practice of pharmacy, processing, packaging, repackaging, or labeling of pharmaceutical drugs containing radioactive isotopes. For those of you who aren't familiar with our zoning code and our land use code, we have the land use code is a numeric system where we assign certain uses to a number, a numeric value. And that value is then used in our zoning or land use ordinance for uses that are permitted or conditionally permitted in each zoning district. So the number that we've proposed of 2834 would be a subcategory under the broader definition, broader category of 2800, which is chemical and allied products. You can see the list there. So some of the uses are broad categories, some are very specialized and a lot more limited as far as the possibilities. Just a little bit of more information on that. The applicants originally, when they submitted their application, wanted to modify, I'm going to go back to this one, the definition for pharmaceutical, just regular pharmaceutical preparations, which is number 2833 at the bottom, which is just a more generic pharmacy, which we have several of in the valley and in the city. But it just includes analgesics, antiseptics, antacids, just the basic pharmacy where the rest of us, all of us go to get our pharmacies. Well, after talking with them for a while, we decided that we needed to have to assign a more specific number, the 2834, because it is much more specialized and much more limited as far as any possibility of other pharmacies going into the Valley or Murray City. So the regulation and oversight on these is highly regulated on a federal, state, and local level. It is regulated by the FDA, the Department of Transportation, our Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and on a state level by the Board of Pharmacy and Utah Department of Environmental Quality, plus the zoning, Murray City zoning. So the manufacturing of positron emission tomography, or PET they call it, is radiopharmaceuticals and are performed within a cyclotron radiochemistry lab or a vault. PET is a diagnostic technique which is used with computer-assisted X-rays, used to track radioactive substances inside a patient's body. The radiopharmacy is staffed by trained nuclear pharmacists, so it is not your typical pharmacist in this use. So again, it's very specialized, very limited. Possibility of other ones in the Valley or in the city is very highly unlikely. Radiopharmaceuticals are compounded specifically for patients in hospitals and clinics in the Intermountain region. So why did they request this specific use? So access to radiopharmaceuticals is necessary to diagnose several different types of cancer, such as prostate, I think ovarian, numerous different types of cancer, and also it can help in detection for Alzheimer's disease. Currently, there are 3 pharmacies, radiopharmacy centers in Utah. One of them is, you all know, the Huntsman Cancer Institute. They have a pharmaceutical radio lab there, but it is not pharma-enabled and capable of producing these newer drugs. So none of these existing 3 locations are capable of producing the non-invasive cardiac imaging drugs, which have a very short shelf life. So the location for a radiopharmaceutical pharmacy is critical to be close to a hospital or clinic where the patients are treated with these particular drugs. Because of that, because of the short shelf life that they have, anywhere from minutes to hours. And after I'm done with this presentation, I have the representatives from Pharmalogic are here, and they will give you all the real nitty-gritty technical information for you. So I'll turn the time over to them when we're done. But so if this text amendment is approved by the City Council and adopted, the applicants, IHC and Pharmalogic, intend to eventually have a facility here in Murray. I need to back up just a little bit. When there is a text amendment, it is applied to any property that is within that particular zoning district. So it is citywide. It's normally we don't refer to a specific site when it's a text amendment because it would apply to citywide to any property in that zone. The proposal is for the new land use category 2834 to be a permitted use in the following zones: the GO, H, CD, and PO, and I'll get to the reasoning behind that in just a minute. And the sections that correspond to that are 17-144, 020, 17-148, 020, 17-160, 020, and 17-174, 020. As I kind of indicated before, there is a broad category of 2800. I can go back to that, which is chemical and allied products. That broader category is currently allowed under our business park zone and as a conditional use, and also in our manufacturing zone. So if this is adopted, if this new land use is adopted, it would also be allowed outright, well, would be allowed in those other zones, which is the AMG and the BP, because it's already there under the broader category. But since it's already allowed, we don't have to include it as part of this application, if that makes sense. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing on October 7th, and public notices were sent out to all the affected entities. We have not received any public comments on this. The Planning Commission really thoroughly scrutinized this application and ultimately made a favorable recommendation to approve it and to send a positive recommendation to the City Council. The vote was 4-0, And we had one commissioner abstain because they are an employee of IHC. Let me just review my notes here. The proposed text amendment, our findings for this proposal are that it does meet the potential development of properties within those 4 zones, the GO, the H, the CD, and the PO. It also does meet the goals and objectives of our general plan. And it also meets the intent of Title 17, which is the zoning code. And again, the Planning Commission voted favorably to adopt this. Let me go back to the why we incorporated the 4 different zoning districts. Initially, when they applied, IHC applied, they just wanted to adopt it into the general office zone, our GO zone, which is 17-144. And when we started looking at the application, we decided that it would probably be a good idea to incorporate a couple of other zoning districts. The property, if this text is allowed, the property that they intend to have a facility at is at 383 West Vine Street, which is known as Stephen Henniger property, which IHC owns. They would remodel that building to accommodate this new cyclotron vault. Of course, they'd have to go through the building permit, et cetera, to do that. But the zoning for that is GO, general office. So that makes sense why we would want it in the general office. Also because of the close proximity of that location is as it relates to the IMC. Again, the short shelf life is critical for these drugs. And so whatever facility there is, it needs to be within close proximity of the place where the cancer treatment is conducted or dispensed to the patients. So the GO zone is where the Stephen Henniger property is at. The future land use map for that property is professional office. So we kind of looked a little further down the road and thought that makes sense to include the PO zone for this request. Also, IMC, the Intermountain Medical Center Hospital, the zoning for that is CD. So that is the reasoning for including the CD zone with the request. And then lastly, the H zone or hospital zone is where the Tosh Clinic is currently located. In fact, it's the only H zone we have. So we felt that it would be a good idea to include those 4 zoning districts, again, the GO, H, CD, and PO, with this request as a permitted use. When we first got this application, we were talking about it, we were really concerned about the safety issues. And I'm going to leave that up to the specialist over here to get into the nitty-gritty of that. But we did meet with the applicant several times, had a Zoom conference that we asked everything from A to Z that we could think of as far as the safety and liability for the city. And by the time we were done, we were very comfortable with this proposal. And I even talked with our chief building official as far as that specific site. He had no concerns. He thought that would be a great fit for the building. And so with that, staff is recommending approval to the proposed text amendment, the radiopharmaceuticals, to be added to sections 17-144, 020, 17-148, 020, and 17-160, 020, 17-174, 020, as referred to earlier, with the corresponding zoning districts, to allow radiopharmaceutical preparations as a permitted use and also to add it to the standard land use code. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Council, any questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
Do you want to hear from finish the presentation, or do you want to ask your questions
them to
now?
give their presentation and then ask questions, or do you?
Okay. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be fair. We might have more questions.
That's true. Okay,
So let's go ahead and bring up our sponsors.
You've uploaded their presentation.
You want to
I'm gonna
introduce
I'm gonna
them?
turn the time over to Jessica Comstock, who is with Pharmalogic. Okay.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you guys for letting me be a part of your meeting tonight. My name is Jessica Comstock. Scott Holbrook was supposed to be here, but on top of my certification as a board certified nuclear pharmacist, I also hold a degree in radiation health physics. And so I came here to represent our company because I know that public health concern and safety is one of your guys' primary concerns. And given my background, I can speak very clearly on that. Please interrupt me throughout my presentation if you guys have questions. I'm also a professor, and so I love questions. I love educating people on what it is that we do. I'm very passionate about what we do, and I love getting to share that with you guys, with everyone here. So our mission and vision, as you can see it here on the screen, I know that most of you are more concerned with what it is that what we actually do, so I'm going to go ahead and skip forward. Who are we? So Pharmalogic is the second largest nuclear pharmacy company in the US. We make radioactive medications. These medications are used to diagnose and treat diseases, diagnose cardiac disease, Alzheimer's, gallbladder issues. We treat a lot of different cancers. Right now, some of the bigger cancers that we're moving forward on and working with our medications is for prostate cancer, neuroendocrine cancer. Those are two large disease states right now. So primarily oncology and cardiology, as well as branching into mental illnesses and Alzheimer's disease. So all of our products are FDA approved, with some exception with the clinical trials that we are doing, which most clinical trials are also FDA overseen by the FDA. Our products do have a short half-life. So I know when a lot of people say radioactivity or nuclear anything, what we think about is nuclear power and nuclear weapons. What we do and what our facilities are capable of doing is a completely different type of radioactivity. We could not even perform those functions if we tried. Not only are we not licensed, but we don't have the appropriate equipment to make that type of radioactivity. So we make radioactivity every night. That material, if it is not utilized by a patient, is no longer radioactive by the end of day. That is how short-lived our medications are. And as Susan mentioned, there's a lot of oversight. The bigger names and the bigger entities are the FDA, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, as well as the Department of Transportation, because these medications are brought from our facility to different hospitals and clinics, as well as the state level, the Department of Environmental Quality here in Utah, as well as the Utah Board of Pharmacy.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You say if that radioactive whatever isn't used, it loses its radioactivity in the day. What type of waste does that then become?
So our products actually start as water, different types of water than your drinking water, and they will decay down to water again. So our waste is minimal. Again, we do not put that out into the environment. It does go through a waste company that gets rid of all of the waste in the United States, and so that is not handled here. But again, it comes down to a completely inert particle that is oxygen-based.
What do they do with that, with the waste? You give it to a company, but then what do they do with it?
So there are 3 licensed companies in the U.S. to handle radioactive waste. And now, again, ours is no longer radioactive, but for safety concerns and a licensing perspective, we do still, any waste that we do, radioactive or not radioactive, goes through those companies. And the federal law right now is to incinerate that waste. So it is burned at very high temperatures.
Does it go to the West Desert, or where do they take that?
I actually do not know where the waste from this region goes. More than happy to do that research and get back to you, though, if you would like.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Any additional questions before I continue? Wonderful. So as Susan mentioned, it's a highly skilled labor group that we work with. So we would be bringing in or hiring highly skilled labor in this area. So radiochemists, radiopharmacists, engineers to work on our equipment, our sales and marketing team, our logistics team, we have legal teams. And so we do use a very broad base of professionals inside our facilities. So a little bit more about Pharmalogic. So we were founded in 1993. Again, we are one of the fastest growing, or we are the fastest growing and now the second largest radiopharmaceutical company in the US. We do also work with our Canadian counterparts. So we are an international company, and we do provide radiopharmacy services as well as drug manufacturing. So we do actually make the drugs as well as draw them up and dispense them as a pharmacy. We also do a lot of clinical research. And so your hospitals and your patients here in this region would have access to cutting edge medications that are in clinical trials. We have, like I mentioned, an international supply. We have strong backing from our equity partners as well. So what is nuclear pharmacy targeting right now? So we are targeting primarily oncology, cardiovascular, and neurology drugs. So neurology, we're looking at Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Cardiovascular, if any of you guys have had the opportunity to utilize your resources here and had a stress test done, a cardiac stress test, you've used our medications. As well as oncology. So this is not chemotherapy. I will explain a little bit more about how our drugs work in the body and why it's actually, I would prefer this option over traditional chemotherapy. So right now we have a patient here. This patient has prostate cancer. So all the black spots that you see on this patient, those are their prostate tumors that have developed from their prostate cancer. So what we would do is we would take a drug compound, we would attach the radioactive component to it, and then we inject this in our patient. And for the diagnostic purposes, these tumors, and only these tumors, take up this drug product. And so then we can say, yes, you indeed do have prostate cancer, and this drug works inside your body. So then what we can do with this patient is take that same exact drug, but attach a different type of radioactive isotope to it, re-inject it into the patient, and we treat them. So what happens is the tumors gobble up, for all intensive purposes, this radioactivity, and the tumors are killed from the inside out. We also do this in neuroendocrine tumors. So this one is near and dear to my heart. When we started working on this drug product 4 years ago, there's a little girl that we were working with, and she was in our clinical trials, and she was 6 years old. She was given a prognosis of 6 months. She went through the clinical trial, got the diagnostic agent. We then treated her with our therapy agent. She just celebrated her 10th birthday. She has been cured. So she has now been cured of neuroendocrine tumors. So these radioactive medications have a huge impact for your citizens here and throughout the region of Utah. Alzheimer's disease. While unfortunately I cannot announce to you that we're curing Alzheimer's, I can tell you that we can better treat Alzheimer's now because we can image it. So we image and look for what's called a plaque. If you don't have Alzheimer's that's caused by plaques, we would give you a different therapy. But the most commonly prescribed therapy treats a plaque-based Alzheimer. So we want to make sure our patients are on the right medications. Otherwise, we're not treating their true disease. So what I'm trying to say is our medications have a very impactful benefit to your citizens and to all the community members of Utah. Also, cardiac imaging agents. If you've had a heart attack, you have bad heart disease, more often than not, you will end up having one of our stress tests. This is one of our shortest lived isotopes. So when I talk about a short-lived isotope, we're talking 10 minutes. When we look at a nuclear reactor, so a power plant or weapons, we're talking about a half-life of years. So 10 minutes to years. So this is a huge difference. And that's part of why I'm here, wanting to educate you guys. So 10-minute half-life, that means in an hour, this drug is no longer radioactive. So it wouldn't even be useful to inject into a patient. And that's primarily why we are looking at the location and the site, because with the identified location, we would have the greatest benefit to your citizens here and be able to treat the largest amount of patients based on this drug product's very short lifespan. So radiation safety, this is what we're all concerned about, right? Which is 100% understandable. So our facilities are specifically designed for worst case scenarios. So Susan talked to us about a vault, a cyclotron vault. So our cyclotron is what actually makes the radioactive component. So this vault has multiple types of shielding, lead, cement, boronated water, to keep the radiation inside. When we design our facility so that any public edge is no longer radioactive. So whether that's the outside of our building and there's a sidewalk or a parking lot, whether it's a shared hallway or whether it's a shared wall with another entity, if you were to stand at that location, you would have no greater radiation exposure than you would if you were in a grocery store. So we design our facilities and our shielding to bring down the risk and the exposure to the radiation. And the facilities are designed, again, for worst case scenario. A lot of times people think when we make medications that we're talking about large volumes of drug products, we're talking about teaspoons of drug products. So again, if we had a catastrophe and we had a spill, we're talking about spilling about 3 teaspoons of liquid on the floor. And we are very trained to clean this up. And it's as easy as shielding it. So you can put lead bricks on top of it, walk away. About 10 hours later, it's no longer radioactive. So the way our facilities and our operations are designed is even if we do have a catastrophic event inside our facility, it cannot get outside of it. And if we do, which we have never had to this point, by the way, we can contain that internally and the danger is gone within the day. So now I talked about how we transport these medications. So what happens is we make it, and then our pharmacy that is in the same building will draw this medication into a patient-specific dose. So we draw it into a syringe, which is a spill-proof container. We put that inside lead shielding, and that lead shielding is then put inside a very specific box that also comes with some shielding, but it's also classified by the Department of Transportation to carry hazardous and radioactive materials. These boxes are put through a lot of performance testing. You can drop them from a 10-foot building. You can throw them in the lake, deluge of water. They do not break down. So spill-proof container in lead inside one of these boxes that is also shielded. Then these boxes get strapped in our delivery vehicles. The idea, right, if we want them strapped in our vehicles is they do not come out of the vehicles. Now, accidents do happen. Our company has a very high safety records, but again, car accidents do happen. If worst case scenario, right? So we'll talk worst case scenario. If we were in a car accident and somehow the package gets ejected from the car and somehow the medication comes outside of that package, outside of its shielding, outside of its spill-proof container, we can handle that. We don't have to close down the city. We do not have to bring in hazmat. We don't have to bring in, we bring in the police for a car accident. We can clean that up. We can survey for any radioactivity in the environment, and we can clean it up in the spot on the minutes. Now, again, worst case scenario, if somehow this medication didn't just spill on the pavement, but somehow jumped onto a member of the public, God forbid the member of the public ingested it, that is literally worst case scenario, right, guys? The amount of radiation that this person would experience is equivalent to the amount of radiation that you would get from a flight from LA to New York City. So again, we're not talking about large amounts of radioactivity. We're talking about very small patient-specific doses. Our vehicles do not carry hundreds of patient doses. More often than not, they carry roughly 2 to 3 patient doses, so very small volumes, very small amounts of radioactivity. So all in all, it is very safe. Like I mentioned, our company does have a very good safety record. Also, everything is lifetime monitored. So in case, again, there was a catastrophic event, we do have lifetime monitoring. We would get notified of that. We shut down our operations, investigate the problem, fix it before we would ever bring something back online. So moving forward, So you do, as again, Susan mentioned, you do have some radioactive pharmaceutical companies in the area. They unfortunately are just not capable of making and producing the same type of radioactive medications that we are capable of. But I want you guys to be aware that this is happening in your valley. This is here. Your patients are already being treated. What we want to do is bring newer radioactive medications in that have a larger impact to your citizens. So this does happen all over the US. So again, I know that we're always thinking about safety. What we're doing is it's not life altering as far as like breaking the mold. This is already occurring all throughout the US and all over the world without any incidents that aren't handled at the site. So why have we targeted here? Why does Pharmalogic want to partner with IHC and bring it here? As you can tell, the Midwest and the East Coast is very covered with these facilities that can handle these medications. And if you were to take away that green blob around Utah, that's what you currently have access to. You don't have access. And so if we brought our facility in here, you would not only be servicing your city, but also the whole region throughout northern Utah and even out a little bit into the other states. So we have done this before. Our most recent facility is just outside in one of the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. It is very similar to the facility that we would like to build here. It is a drug development center. We do make research as well as commercially available drug products. We work with the University of Colorado School of Medicine with their PET MR and PET CT departments. We brought in a lot of increased recruitment opportunities. So when you bring in more advanced medications, you will also bring in more developed physicians and also the equipment that can handle these medications, ultimately providing better healthcare to your citizens. And we also have seen improvement of research and grants being awarded in that area. And this is what the community where our facility looks like. We are right smack dab in the middle of that picture on the upper left. We are surrounded by apartments. There's a church literally across the sidewalk from us. There are restaurants, kids play in that pool. And there is no danger to those citizens because there is no exposure to radiation outside of our walls. So that concludes my presentation. I am more than happy to take any questions. I know this is a serious thing to consider, and radioactivity again does have a very bad name behind it, but I'm here to let you know that it is safe. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? Diane?
A comment. When you talk about radioactive, nuclear, those kinds of, they're scary. I mean, and I'm scares me, and I'm sure it does our citizens as well. I think your presentation has been very helpful in allaying, some of those concerns. So I appreciate that, and I just want to make sure that it will be safe. And because that still remains. I have some other issues, but as far as your presentation, thank you. I appreciate that. And,
Absolutely.
There are concerns. So
yes,
it was good. Thank you.
And what I failed to mention is this is our first step. So not only does the property have to be zoned correctly for us to build there, we have to secure all the correct permits. But once we move forward with licensing, our design of our facility goes to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission as well as the Utah DEQ for approval to get a license to handle and to hold radioactive materials. So we are inspected by those entities before we even start, so before we ever possess any radioactive material. And we are audited and inspected frequently, so at least annually. And so there is that oversight that they are there on site watching our operations continuously throughout our lifespan here in your community.
And you are requesting for one area.
Correct. I believe.
Well, they're requesting for zone changes in multiple areas.
Yeah.
Not just one. 4.
For zone changes.
For 4.
Sorry, I'll let Susan handle that one.
So this is a text amendment and also to allow it to the 4 different zoning districts. So it is not specifically for that site. And like I kind of thought I'd mentioned, usually text amendments, we don't refer to a specific location. But in this particular case, it is quite critical for that. So this is not approval for that site specifically. It is to add that land use to the 4 different zoning.
But we could just focus in on the one location for the text amendment, correct? If we wanted to.
Well, you could, but it's not approval for that location. If the council does approve the text to allow the new text and to incorporate it into those zoning districts, the applicant would then have to come back to the planning and zoning department to get approval for any kind of, for the actual approval of the use and for any building permits that are associated with that. But that is done later if the zoning is approved.
Okay,
So
I'm just
you're not
won-
approving the site.
Okay, I'm just wondering why all 4 at one time.
Okay, good question. So the current property at Stevens Henniger is zone GO General Office, which was originally, the original request was just for the general office to allow this use. The future land use map, or the future for the property, is in our professional office zone. So if somewhere down the road we change or the applicant proposes a PO zone, the professional office in our general plan, it would already be an allowed use. It would not then become what we call legal nonconforming. The Tosh property, also owned by AHC, is in our H hospital zone. We as staff just thought it makes sense to look, long-term down the road to incorporate, if they do decide to move locations or whatever, to the Tosh site or IMC, it would make sense to include those zoning districts. So IMC is in the CD zone. Tosh is in the H hospital zone. This location at Stevens Henniger is in our GO zone, but the future land use is for the professional office zone.
Susan, let me ask you. So, going off what Diane has said, what if the council wasn't comfortable with approving all those zones and just wanted to approve the one, and then have you come back when they decide if they say they were going to move or if they're going to do this or that, rather than not look down the road right now, from what you said, and just to say, well, we're just going to approve this right now and have them come back for approval on anything else that would move it around.
That is absolutely within the authority of the city
Yeah,
council.
you
if
would just need to
prefer
make a
do that.
motion.
And that was
Accept any
actually originally
motions.
their request.
That's what we thought. Yeah, I remember that being your
Staff,
request.
we just kind of
Sure.
actually
Um,
Oh, here comes.
I'm going to allow you guys 5 more minutes. We do need to take public comments on this. So if you guys.
I'll be really brief.
Uh-huh.
So Jason Argyle with Intermountain Healthcare. I just want to reiterate a couple of points. The reason we've asked Pharmalogic to come here is so we can offer these new therapies that we don't have access to our patients today. As we're socializing this idea with some of our oncologists, I'm getting calls and emails, weekly saying, hey, is this happening? Can we get these drugs here? They're really excited about it. And so, we really do think it's something that will be helpful for our patients to have more
sounds
accurate
like it.
diagnosis and better treatments to therapies we don't have today. To the last point about the zoning, we'll defer to your expertise and Susan and the team's expertise. We have plans to build, we'd like to build, one center at that Stevens Henniger building. From a safety perspective, my office is there in that building. This cyclotron that we talked about would be adjacent to it. Really no concerns for me or my colleagues. It really is safe. So again, we feel it's the best thing for our patients. We'd love to partner with Pharmalogic, and we don't have future plans to expand. It's just the one location to bring the service here.
Jason, tell me your title again. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm the AVP of Imaging Services.
The what?
Assistant Vice President of
didn't hear you.
Imaging
Okay.
Services.
ABP. Okay, thank you. I thought it was some medical term I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah, I'm not questioning, the integrity of what you're trying to do. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, and I really do appreciate it. And I want you to continue that. I think my concern also with what Brett said, is approving, 4 different areas rather than just, starting with the one and then having you come back to us. I would be more comfortable having that happen. It would.
If I might, I can see GL thinking here. Can we,
Yes.
do we have to kick it back to planning and zoning, or can
No,
we
you
make
don't.
the amendment here for one?
You can just make it for one. I was just going to mention that in Susan's presentation, you may recall, she brought up, I think it's the business park and manufacturing zone that already allow the overarching medical, whatever it's called. So you'd want to go back, in addition to just approving for the general office zone, you'd want to make a notation in both of those that the 2800 did not include this 2834. So it's not included in the 2 zones that you haven't discussed yet.
Thank you.
Last question I have before we move on, because I envision, of course, us being the leading in medical. IHC is here, and I think you guys are doing amazing things, and this is an amazing opportunity, not just for yourselves, but even for us as a city. And I want to acknowledge that and moving forward and really being conscious, even in these discussions that we're having today. How long does it take to produce an actual facility? Is it 2 years, 3 years? By the time everybody approves everything, what are we looking at the timeline?
So our building is in different stages. So construction roughly takes 7 to 9 months, and then licensing. So first would be a pharmacy license and then FDA approval. So those can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months. So again, our building will be active and up in less than a year, and then you wait for licensing from those governing bodies.
Okay.
I've never heard anybody say 2 to 6 months on that. I thought it was 2 to 6 years.
That's why I asked.
I know,
Realistically, it was
I thought the same thing.
good to know.
So it's not a new building, from what I'm understanding. It's an existing facility, the existing
Right.
building
It
that
would
they
have to be
remodeled.
remodeled
Yeah.
That's
to
why.
meet all of the safety requirements and to get the required equipment in.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the public hearing portion of the meeting to this item. Again, we do have public hearings for all our items moving forward. So please be considerate of limiting your comments to 3 minutes. Please state your name and at least your district. And anyone that would like to come up, please come forward. Janice.
Hi, Janice Strobel with District 3. So I listened in on the Planning Commission and then listening to this presentation tonight. The question that I had kind of got a little bit answered more with the presentation tonight, but understanding that this new generation of these types of drugs will have such a short shelf life. I happen to work just south of the school district offices, which are there, on Commerce. So then just a little bit further is Stevens Henniger College. So I constantly go past the hospital every day. And what we deal with between Vine Street going across to the hospital is tracks, front runner, train. And those things can really take some time, especially when we're dealing with the train. So I don't know how the facility will work with those very short-term drugs that have to go across that place when and if it's during those crazy moments that the train can go forever. And if it stops and goes backwards and forwards when you're just sitting there. So I guess maybe you'll be using an ambulance. I don't know how you're going to get these short-term meds over to the hospital, and why it can't be just done at the hospital. I don't know. It would seem that there's a lot of property that the IHC owns over there that maybe could be developed for that purpose. But anyway, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. All right, anyone else for public comments for item number 1, public hearing? Thank you, Clark.
Thank you, Clark Bullen, District 3. Just a quick thought. If we look at the hospital zone, that's the zone used the least. And if you adopted the hospital zone to allow radiopharmaceuticals and then rezone that specific property to a hospital zoning, then it would really limit where the radiopharmaceuticals would be allowed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Since we are on a fault line, there's always a concern about radiation leakage from an earthquake. And my question would be if there are adequate safeguards in place to prevent leakage of the radiation and the radioactive isotopes in the event of an earthquake. I think that in the past, we've had some wake-up calls in Chernobyl in Russia and also Fukushima in Japan. And in the case of Japan, they're at very high risk of earthquakes. And the Fukushima leakage has leaked all over the world. It's not localized in Japan. It has migrated into all areas of the world and is carried by the jet stream. So I think that we ought to take this question very seriously. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, can you state your name again and your district? Oh, District 5. Okay. Brett's got it. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and then open it up back to the council for discussion.
Would it be possible for Jessica, I knew it, to come back up and maybe address a couple of those questions? Thanks.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
What can I help with?
The one about the earthquake was one, but the other was what Janice said about the tracks and
the train.
Absolutely. So I know our operations team as well as our sales team worked with Intermountain Healthcare, and they do have a delivery path put into place that they feel very confident about the timing of delivery of our drug products. And we wouldn't only be delivering to their primary site at the hospital. Intermountain Health has many different imaging centers, and so we would not just be servicing one building, but we would be servicing many different buildings throughout the region. About the earthquakes, that is a wonderful question. I want to thank you for bringing that up. When we design our facilities, we bring in and we look at structural integrity of the facility. We also look at the environment and location. We look at airflows. We look at your water tables. We look at your fault lines. So when we design and we build a facility, this facility that then is approved by the NRC and your state's Department of Environmental Quality, this is all considered before they give us our license to operate. So we have to design a facility. So each one is a little bit different based on its location and the factors that come into play, such as fault lines, such as high water tables, potentially low airstreams that come through. That's all part of our design process.
All right. Anyone else?
I just want to say thank you for your presentation. Any concerns or questions were answered in that, and I appreciate how thoroughly you explained and in detail. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity again.
Yes. One last thing I just wanted to say, if we can get this slide to share with us as a council, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? I'll entertain discussion, motion, all of the above.
I'll just reiterate what I said. I mean, my concern is taking all four at once, and I would prefer having them come back before us whenever, whenever there is, whenever we're going to get that, the request. Whenever we have the request, I'd rather it come back before us rather than doing all four at once. It's just, such a concern.
Susan, can you specify again what zone was in the code? Is it the 17.144020? That would be the that
Yes.
we'd want to change to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
144, which is the GO. I also just wanted to comment on Mr. Boland's comment about changing the zoning to H for this location. The city does not typically initiate zone changes, so it would be up to the property owner's prerogative whether they wanted to change the zoning or not.
So they would have to go through the application process again.
Correct,
Okay.
yes, right.
Okay, thank you. You guys ready? Do you feel like I just want to say that I feel the same concerns as Diane, and I had a lot of people contact me about this, so I really appreciate the information given tonight. I think it's been so much more than we've had. And Susan, by far, you do a wonderful job, so thank you. I'm not going to discredit that.
We were pretty impressed.
Yeah. And I know a lot of work goes into something like this, so I don't want to discredit that at all, because I think outside of us, there's more hands that are at play here and that will participate in this process. So thank you again for that presentation. And I really am excited personally to kind of be one of those leaders here in Salt Lake or in the county to do this. So, and to have it more accessible. I think that's great. And with that, anyone else?
If I understood GL right, we can amend it here.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think if it's legal, I'd like GL to make my amendment and then
Can you make the motion for us?
to make sure it's proper, and then that will be
I
my.
think we're all sitting here waiting
For
for
you, but I can tell you, I can
who's going to do
suggest
that?
one line of going after it. Someone is going to move to approve an ordinance amending the Murray City Standard Land Use Code related to adding a land use category for this. That whole first clause is good. Okay. The second one says, and amending section 17-144-020 of the Murray City Municipal Code, identifying this as a permitted use in this zoning, in the GO zoning district, and directing staff, this is what I would suggest, to make a notation to exclude 2834 radiopharmaceuticals from the BP and MG zoning districts.
So I just can't make the amendment of what GL said.
I'll know what you mean.
I'm going to let you guys make the motion. So go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Murray City Standard Land Use Code related to adding the land use category for radiopharmaceutical manufacturing and products, and amending section 17-144-020 of the Murray City Municipal Code, identifying radiopharmaceutical manufacturing and products as permitted use in specific zoning districts, and staff make a note to take out the other, the other groups. Yeah. Does that work?
Good job, Dale. Very good.
Yeah.
I hope somebody wrote that down.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah. Anybody got any brandy?
For that, you get an M&M. All right, we got a first and a second, and then our motion and a second. Go ahead, Brooke.
Aye.
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 Aye, and I want to recommend, or I'd like to acknowledge the presentation. It was great. It took away a lot of anxiety. Thank you.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right. Everyone take a deep breath. Item number 2 of our public hearing. You all are welcome to stay, but I know you guys have other things to do. So thank you so much. And please. Thank you. All right, item number 2, consider an ordinance relating to land use amends the zoning map for property located approximately 5700 South, 800 West, Murray City, Utah, from A1 agriculture to R18 low density zoning district. And Zach Smallwood will be presenting.
Thank you very much. Mine's going to be much shorter. and it just deals with colors. So it should be super simple. So this is a request from Joe Colosimo, requesting, like you had mentioned, a zone map amendment from A1, which is the agricultural zone, to R18, which is the low density single family residential district. The address of the property is 5700 South, 800 West. I don't know why it's showing up so small on the screen. I apologize about that. Let me see if I can make it a little bit better. Nope. Okay, I don't know why it's being small, but that's fine. So you can see it's located here just to the south and west of Anderson Avenue, immediately adjacent to 800 West. I'm not as prepared with school names, so I'm not going to say school names because you guys know I'm awful at school names. So it's that school there. Like I mentioned, it is located in the A1 zone, which is our agricultural district. The 2017 Murray City General Plan does call for this to be low density residential. That includes the A1 zone. It includes the R18, R16, et cetera. So this request does fit within the 2017 Murray City General Plan. As you can see, the low density, I guess I could have saved time and just said these zones here. So the proposed zoning is R18, so it does not require a general plan change for this to change from A1 to R18. Some of the comparisons in the zone, the A1 requires a 1 acre lot size. The subject property is 1.62 acres, so it does fit that. R18 would be 8,000 square foot per lot. We did receive a concept application from the applicant. He's proposing about 7 lots in this area, which it fits the density when you take the road out. Lot widths, 100 feet in the A1, 80 feet for an R18. Height is 35 feet or 40 feet with a conditional use permit in the A1 zone. Pretty standard otherwise. Front yard setback is 30, rear is 25, sides are 10, and corner side is 20 feet in the A1 zone. Pretty simple. On the R18 side, it's 25 front and rear with a minimum of 8 and a total of 20 for the sides. Both do require 2 off-street parking spaces, so that doesn't change. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on October 21st, and 39 notices were sent to all properties within 300 feet of the subject property and the affected entities. We received 1 public comment, which was centered around traffic and parking when school events are held. The Planning Commission did vote 7-0 to 4 to a recommendation of approval to you guys as the City Council. So findings, the general plan provides flexibility in implementation and execution of the goals and policies. We believe that changing this over to an R18 zone will allow for a great additional housing in the area and is pretty consistent with the neighboring zones as well. So we are recommending, we and the Planning Commission are recommending that the City Council approve the requested amendment to the zone map designation from A1 agricultural to R18 low density single family. Any questions I can answer?
Anyone? Is the applicant here by chance? Do they want to say anything?
Yes, we do have a representative.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Joe's not here tonight. He sent me over here. My name's Carl Old. I'm at 188 East Clear Creek Drive in Sandy, Utah. And all we're doing is just, requesting a rezone from an A1 to a R18. The lots are like 8,300 to 8,200 square feet. So.
All right. Thank you. Any questions, council, or discussion? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for the public hearing portion. Thank you so much, sir. Anyone that would like to come up, you have 3 minutes, and please state your name and district. Anyone? All right, Zach, you were right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and go ahead and move on and accept a motion or discussion.
Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll make a motion. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Okay, I move that we approve an ordinance relating to the land use, amends the zoning maps for the property located at approximately 5700 South, 800 West, Murray City, Utah, from A1 agriculture to the R18 low density single family zoning district.
All right, thank you, Brett.
And with that, I will second it. I do want to, I guess there is discussion. I just want to make a statement that that area does have a parking problem, serious parking problem when there are soccer games and football games. And hopefully we can, there's been a few ideas floated around that may help mitigate that, so we can move forward with that as well. So I'll second the motion.
All right, I got a first and a second. Go ahead, Brooke.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 3. Consider an ordinance relating to the land use amendment amends the zoning map for properties located at approximately 87 West Trip Lane, Murray City, Utah, from R18 low density single family to R16 low medium density residential. Applicant is Salt Lake Neighborhood Housing Services. Go ahead, Zach.
Awesome. Hopefully this one will go just as fast. So, like you had mentioned, this is a request from Salt Lake Neighborhood Housing Services, otherwise known as Neighborworks, to amend the zoning from R18, which is pretty much 8,000 square foot lots, to R16, which is 6,000 square foot lots. This is located at 871 West Trip Lane, located here, kind of on your map, right adjacent to the junior high school there along Trip Lane. As you guys will recall, they had recently came forward and asked for the R18 zone, and and they originally got approval through the Planning Commission for a subdivision with a street that would connect, and that would have required the use of eminent domain. And since that option was not used, they have come forward and to help get the lot yield that they're looking for. They are requesting an R16 zone. So, yeah, as you can see here, it's in the R18 currently. Again, both of these zones do comply with the low density residential district in the 2017 general plan. So a general plan amendment was not required. This is pretty much just copy and paste from this stuff. It's the exact same slide, just showing the different zonings that are allowed in the low density residential category in the general plan. So this is probably the more significant thing. Largely the big changes are to the height, that actually get a smaller height than the R16, 5 feet shorter, so only 30 feet instead of 35 feet. Some of the other big changes here is a 20-foot setback in the front yard as opposed to 25. That allows for a little bit more use of the property. And then also side yard setbacks at 5 feet as opposed to 8 and 12 or whatever you get. Still does require 2 off-street parking spaces for both zones, so that is still a requirement. So findings here, again, we notice, we anticipate additional housing in this area. These smaller lots can help to increase affordability. People are able to afford a smaller lot because land is expensive. So if you can get, a house on a smaller lot, that typically ends up being a little bit more affordable to some people. The Planning Commission voted 6-1 to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council. They held that hearing on October 21st as well. So we and the Planning Commission are recommending that the City Council approve the zoning map designation of the property at 871 West Trip Lane from R18 low density single family to R16 medium density single family as described in the staff report. Any questions I can answer?
Anyone? Diane?
Yes, I'm wondering what would that difference in the housing? How many houses?
3.
3 houses.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Neighborworks to come up and present or speak a little bit about their application.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. Neighborworks Salt Lake, for those of you who don't know who we are, we're a nonprofit organization that was established in 1977 to revitalize neighborhoods experiencing blight and decline. We work to revitalize neighborhoods house by house and block by block. We build on the strength of the neighborhoods we serve, and we work in partnership with residents, government, and local businesses and build and sustain neighborhoods of choice. Because of our successful track record for over 44 years, in 2010, we were invited by Murray City as a result of a housing study to respond to an increased need to provide housing for median to low income families and revitalize some struggling neighborhoods. Over the last 11 years, we've rehabilitated or developed over 25 properties worth just under $9 million and helped numerous low median income families achieve the American dream of home ownership. Trip Lane was identified as a problem property when the original owners of the property passed away and it was left to the heirs. The heirs were occupied by other demands and had little time to maintain the property, which resulted in some enforcement issues that they responded to and complied with. Neighborworks was able to negotiate with the family to acquire the property with the intent to build out this agricultural property to single-family homes. The family had many offers to sell to the multifamily developers, but felt the best legacy for their parents would be single-family housing for first-time home buyers. In working with Murray City departments to develop the plans for the property, we discovered that Murray City's original plan was to connect Trip Lane with Willow Grove Lane. When the homes on Willow Grove Lane were originally developed, the street was left as a dead end in anticipation of the road going through. Therefore, as requested by Murray City Engineering, we developed our plans with the road going through, which would accommodate 10 homes on R18 lots. Since that time, it's been determined that the road will not go through and must be a cul-de-sac, so we redid our plans to include a cul-de-sac. Well, in this last year or more, the cost of housing has drastically increased, as I'm sure everyone is aware of the issues in the housing market in Utah, making the homes in the area too high priced for most first-time home buyers. I know that Murray City's plan is to support affordable housing, as evidenced over the last 6 months by the approval of other rezonings to R16 on Bullion Street, Jefferson Street, and 5600 South. So in our efforts to support Murray City's vision, we have reconsidered our plans for the size of the lots on Trip Lane. If the lots are rezoned to R16, we could build up to 3 additional homes, building 13 homes instead of 10. This will help build housing for 3 more families. 3 more people get to live the American dream. 3 more families get to live the American dream. Also building affordable, therefore reducing the price of the homes. It makes the additional homes Building the additional homes, helps reduce our infrastructure costs, making the land costs more affordable to build, therefore reducing the price of the homes, so the homes will cost less and be more affordable. So we hope you recognize this opportunity to build additional single-family homes with the approval of our R16 zoning. So thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you so much. Anyone? Any questions? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you. All right, I'll open it up to discussion before I move it to public hearing, or we can wait. No? Okay. All right, let me go ahead and open it up to the public hearing. You have, anyone is welcome to come up and speak on this item, and you have 3 minutes. Anyone? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and now close the public hearing, and we will go ahead and move on to discussion or a motion. I'll entertain either one.
I would just like to say, I'll disclose that I am the recipient of a Neighborworks down payment assistance loan. It was awesome. Thank you. But just a disclosure as we vote on a Neighborworks item. Other than that, I have no more discussion.
Okay, great. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
All right. I will move to adopt the ordinance relating to land use, which amends the zoning map for the properties located at approximately 871 West Trip Lane, Murray, Utah, from R18, low density single family, to R16, low/medium density residential.
I'll second that.
All right, I got a first and a second. Brooke?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Neighborworks. You guys do wonderful work for us. And, if you don't know about Neighborworks, Google them, look them up. They have some amazing programs for teachers, first responders, anyone in public service, or just anyone who qualifies, really. And they can go through that process. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're welcome. All right. Do we need a 5-minute break, a drink break, or anything? 5 minutes? Is 5 minutes okay, Brett? 5 or 10? I mean, 5 good? Okay, so we'll come back. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll come back to item number 4 of our public hearing. All right. We are going to go ahead and get started back up. So if I can have everybody take your seats, get your forms ready. Jennifer has them just in case you need them. There's clipboards and pens. All right. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting again. And we're going to go ahead into item number 4. Consider an ordinance relating to land use amends the general plan from general commercial to village and centers mixed use to and amends the zoning map from CN to CMU for the properties located at 5283, 5217, 5157, and 5177 South State Street and 151 East, 5300 South, Murray, Utah. And Jared Hall will be presenting, and the applicant is Howland Partners. Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction and the information gone over, so I won't repeat all of that. The properties that you listed off are commonly known as the Point at 53rd, the shopping center there on the east side of State Street at 53rd South. And as you mentioned, also this is a dual application. There's 2 parts: the general plan amendment to village and centers mixed use from general commercial, and a zone map amendment from CD, commercial development zone, to the newly created or fairly newly created CMU centers mixed use zone. The property you can see there, it is a large existing active commercial retail shopping center just west of Murray City Park and across from Costco and near the IMC campus. It is in the CD zone, hence the zone change application as well. And the general plan map amendment as well, because the future land use map indicates that this property is general commercial. I'm going to, in the interest of public comment, and because you guys have heard my presentation before in the committee of the whole, and then the city council heard a lot of the same things when we talked about adopting the zone recently too. So in the interest of time and hearing more from the public and from the applicant, who I know has some slides prepared and wants to talk with you as well, I'm going to be very brief. And if you have questions roiling in your brain from the last time you heard me talk about this, feel free to interrupt whenever, and I'll come back up whenever is needed as well. Is that all right? Does that make okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So I could hear the relief in your response. One of the things that's unique about this site is where it is, and one of the reasons that we, in the interest of time, also I'm going to address kind of an issue that I think comes up a lot. One of the reasons we feel like as staff this is a good site for mixed use is the same reason that you can answer the question, why do we do mixed use? Why do we propose mixed use in the first place all the time? It's not appropriate in every area, as you're all aware, I'm sure, and the public is aware as well. But why do we propose mixed use? Why do we give up commercial property for mixed use property or for a mixed use zone? And the answer is pretty simple. We don't see it as giving up retail property or commercial property. We see it as modifying commercial property, allowing commercial property to have the ability to modify itself going forward under the dictates of the market, as opposed to what we look at as traditional exclusionary zoning. So it's adding residential components to existing commercial sites, not to just give up commercial sites, but to make them viable going forward, to save them in essence. That's how we view that. And not just us, but other planning professionals and economic development professionals as well. It's not always appropriate, but we feel like this is a good site, and that's illustrated by this area. You have the IMC campus, you have the Costco, you have State Street's commercial quarter, really the beginning of State Street's more significant retail corridor. We have a lot of car lots and things north of here and south of here as well, but we have a lot of retail in this area, and it requires that kind of zoning going forward if it's going to have reinvestment in those properties. We want to encourage that as staff. That's why we supported this. The general plan considerations we have talked about, it's identified in this mapping as one of those areas that ought to be considered for change. It does meet a lot of general plan goals, so we do need a modification to the general plan, but it's not out of order. It's not an abandonment of our master planning that we did in 2017 in our view. It's the fulfillment of it, or the beginning of the fulfillment of that arc. The CMU zone, it does meet our requirements that are written into the zone to be considered for the application of that new centers mixed use zone. It's not appropriate, like we said, for every property, but it hits all the right marks. It's bigger than 3 acres. It's not been residential in the past. It's been commercial or non-residential. It's along a major transportation corridor. It'll meet those goals, at least 5 of the 9. I think it meets 7, if I remember correctly, of those goals that we have established for consideration. And we are, 7 of the 9. The CMU zone does allow the introduction of higher density housing to an existing commercial site, up to 35 units per acre, or sorry, from 35 to 45 units per acre in this case, depending on the things that you would do to achieve that higher density. But the base density is 35 units per acre. And these are just some reasons from the master site planning process. Again, there's a whole process after zoning that is established for you to consider as a city, for the planning commission, and then you as a council with a development agreement called the master site plan agreement, to consider all of those questions, the traffic, the parking that's necessary, the density that should be allowed, and to memorialize those in that agreement. And we do, with these 5 findings, we are recommending that the city council approve that zone change and general plan amendment. The planning commission voted to approve that as well, unanimously 7-0, to recommend that, to forward that recommendation of approval to you. So we are recommending approval on both of those. And I did want to leave plenty of time for the applicant to go over his information and for the public as well to talk. So any questions for staff at this point?
So if I understand you correctly, if this is approved tonight and the developer doesn't meet certain obligations, we can unapprove it down the road.
Well, it's still, I guess, in a manner of speaking, yes. If you approve the zoning tonight, there's a lot of process still to go. If the CMU zone were applied, then they come back into the city and ask for, they make an application called a master site plan application. And that master site plan application cannot be made until they've performed a traffic study, which I think they've already done. And I've seen that. I haven't been able to go through it all completely yet, but they've done a traffic study. They can't make that application until they've done a traffic study, a parking evaluation. I'm forgetting all the things because, whisper it again.
Let me ask you what you're thinking, Jared. That's okay.
Go ahead.
What you're thinking, and so I'm going to be more specific than Dale was. So we're so used to the other zones that once it leaves here, it never returns back to the city council. So I just want to make sure that what Dale is saying is correct, that say it's allowed for so many apartments, and we say, well, we don't really want to, say the citizens say they don't want apartments, or they don't want this or whatever, and we agree with saying a certain specific amount of residential. Does that have to be, in the past they could still do their 560 or whatever was allowed? What's the difference now with this new mix?
The only difference really is that this process is more defined and more involved. And we can base that density on not just what the code says. The code says you can have 35 as a base, and if you do these 16 things, you can get up to 45. And in most cases, we don't have a range of density. We just have an allowance. It's 15 units per acre, period. Or it's, houses on 6,000 square foot lots, period. Where there's that range, there are things that contribute to that. So let's say that the parking study comes back and recommends that because of the commercial area that they're going to keep this many square feet of commercial and retail, and it's going to generate so much of a parking need. And they're going to do this many units, and that's going to create more of a parking need than they can accommodate on the site. That's going to push their number down. And so we can control that somewhat, at least as long as we're analyzing things at the planning commission level. And then again, with the city council, when it comes back for that development agreement, the master site plan agreement that memorializes the work the planning commission did. So you're going to need to rely on the planning commission to do that work, but you always have in the past as well. And then your shot at it again is to look at it at that development agreement as a council and say, did we get all this stuff right? And are we comfortable memorializing that in this new development agreement that then allows the project, not the zoning, but the project? Does that make sense? So there's a lot of factors that go into that. We need that traffic study. We need that parking evaluation. We have to have that development agreement. And they don't get to make the application until they've done that pre-work. So when they come to the Planning Commission, they'll have a really good idea when they're proposing that 30 units to the acre or 31 to the acre or whatever it is, that that's supportable and workable. And we will too as a staff and commission. So
go ahead, Diane.
So Jared, okay, should we approve this? How many units could be put on that site? How many?
Great question. And when I came to the committee of the whole, I had a note card that told me. So I have to do the numbers real quick. It's based on the acreage and it's what's allowable, but you have to temper that somewhat too, knowing that this project has a commercial component requirement as well. And they're going to meet that because it's a successful commercial corridor. They're not going to want to give up all their commercial. So you have to be able to fit it, but it's going to be, is it a 10 acre? Remind me, 12 acres, 35 units the acre. That's the base density. Now, to go higher than 35, not only would they have to show that their parking can be handled, that the traffic study can support that kind of thing, that those components can be met. They'd have to do that for their initial application. To go higher than that, they also have to do any of these things. They can do additional maximum residential use density up to 40 or 45 units if they're increasing the total amenities and the increase of open space on the project, or if they're doing public availability of that, if they want to get to the highest level, 15% of the
Are these the incentives?
Yeah, these
if
are the
they were to
incentives
do
for the
these?
density. So you don't just automatically get 40 or 45. You provide affordable housing in the project and guarantee that to get to the next levels, or you provide additional landscaping and amenities in the project to get to those levels.
So
So roughly 500 units, it sounds like. Am I
about
pretty close to that? A little under, maybe? Okay, 425, yeah.
But that's if they demolish everything there and just build homes.
Yeah, that allowance doesn't take into account that they have property they want to use commercially, a significant amount of it as well. And I think Mr. Howland would speak to that better than me, but this zone was designed, it was kind of crafted with that in mind, that this isn't likely to be blank slate properties. It would happen occasionally that there would be a building that would just be demolished, but we wanted to, again, encourage reinvestment in properties that are currently doing well. If properties aren't allowed to, if there's not an incentive for property holders to reinvest in their properties, then we lose what has made our commercial so successful and so special in the past. And we feel like this is the best way to do that, what we've crafted so far. If we haven't got it exactly right, we'll make adjustments as we need to. But we feel like this is a good incentive to allow that reinvestment in these properties and keep them viable going forward, so that we have this corridor that we have with places like the Point at 53rd, with the Fashion Place Mall, et cetera. Adding housing to those sites is just what people are doing. There are residences at Station Park. There are residences at Mountain View Village. There are residences in all of these kinds of properties. And they're new properties, which we have to compete with going forward.
Okay, but given the zoning, we could have about 500 units on that.
You could potentially, if everything fell into line. If their traffic study supported that, if their parking analysis supported that, if their housing analysis supported that, if they could keep the retail they're required to have and do that, then yeah. And if they did these things, if they were able to convince the Planning Commission that they had done enough affordable housing or additional commercial space to make that viable, then yes, they could. I don't think that's likely on a property like the Point at 53rd that's successful as it is.
But we can't vote on what could be. I mean, we have to vote on what is allowed.
Yeah,
Right.
That's true.
And just a quick question, how much commercial property or space is there now?
Currently on that site?
Yes.
Gary?
And how much would that decrease to with this project? With the allowed zone?
Yeah.
I guess let's just have Helen come up and then sorry,
probably speak to
and
that
he
better.
can speak to that
Those
a
are
little bit
exactly
and
the
give.
kind of things that
Okay,
you would-
yeah. Are you guys okay with that? And then moving forward. All right. Well, perfect. We welcome you to come up and present to us.
Okay, so I go that way. Well, I am grateful for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to start off by saying that it was just a little over 20 years ago that I stood in this very spot for approval of the point at 53rd. The number of people that were here were about 5 times the number of people that are here now. They went all the way out into the hallway. I know Doug was with Murray City at the time. It was when Dan Snar was mayor, and there was tremendous opposition towards the point at 53rd. We ended up having to take out 5 homes along 53rd South to increase the parking area where the ice skating rink currently is, because the National Guard Armory was sharing parking with the National Guard with the Salt Lake County on the ice skating rink. We had to take out and buy ground from Salt Lake County and work with the county, with Nancy Workman, and be able to buy the fairgrounds. We had to clean up the site. We had some issues with some water problems that we discovered after we had started on the development on the site. But I don't, for fear that, that not many will raise their hands, I don't know many people that I have talked to since, we've completed and built the point at 53rd 20 years ago that do not believe that it was a great addition to the city and made a huge difference and an impact to that area. It was a blighted area. It had a trailer park on it. It had a paint store that had burned down. It just was horrible. And I've got a slide here that basically shows it. You go through the historical side here, and this gives you kind of an idea of basically when we bought it. If you can see that, I don't know if you guys, can you see the screen there? If you can see that, you can see that's basically the condition of the property when I bought it. Now, I only owned 6 acres of it. There was 12 acres that's there, but I only owned 6 acres of it. I only owned 1/2 of the 6 acres. My partners, they didn't want to develop the 12 acres. They just wanted to develop the 6 and sell it and move on. And I'm from Murray. I've lived in Murray, I don't now, but I lived in Murray 45 years of my life. All of my kids went to Murray High School. All of my kids graduated from Murray. I graduated from Murray. I was the first student when Parkside Elementary opened. I was the first one that went to Parkside Elementary as a 6th grader when Parkside Elementary opened. And so when people say that, on Facebook and different things, that these developers come in and just make a lot of money and they grab it and run, I take offense at that, but, I don't get angry because I think everybody has their opinion. But I will tell you this, that in the 20 years that I've owned this property, I can't count on both hands. I can't count how many offers I've had to sell this property for a significant amount more than I ever thought that I would get out of this property. This property is not for sale now, and it will not be for sale in my lifetime. The reason being is that I have roots in Murray. My kids love Murray. My family still lives in Murray, and they're just a special place in my heart, for what we do here. And we want to do it right. And so as you can see, there's a huge difference from, you all remember the smokestacks. I was there the day that those came down. I don't know how many of you were there and saw that when the smokestacks came down. There's the National Guard Armory, the steps that were going up to it. Down in front of that was a thing called the Fountain of Youth, where people would go in and fill up, their water from the fountain that was there, okay? And then we go to the present when we develop the point at 53rd. Generally, when you develop a blighted area like this, most cities give a tremendous amount of money to the developer through redevelopment dollars because of the condition that this property was in. When Dan Snar was mayor, the only redevelopment dollars that we got was for some infrastructure along State Street and along 53rd. The total amount of help that we got from the city was $200,000 is all. The rest of it was all paid for by us. The other thing that I want to make you aware of is that I'm not here because I want to build apartments. I'm here because I want to preserve the point at 53rd. I want to preserve its value. I want to preserve its usefulness. And I want it still to be a vibrant shopping center. And there are things that have happened in the past with COVID-19. There are things that had happened pre-COVID-19 that are changing the way people shop and the way they do business. It was inevitable that eventually the stick and brick mortar stores were going to be a thing of the past. Pre-COVID-19, it only accounted for about 15 to 20% of online sales counted for retail sales. Since COVID-19 has come out, okay, and now we're back in it, online sales now are far exceeding, okay, or very close to what the stores themselves are doing. Most of the big boxes are shuttering their doors, or they're cutting back significantly the number of stores they have. Walmart, over the next 10 years, is going to close a third of their stores. A third of their stores. Wall Street valued these stores when I was doing Best Buy and Barnes and Noble, and I had Ross Dress for Less in Layton that we did, and we did another development there. Wall Street valued these stores based upon the number of stores that they opened every year. It had nothing to do with how many sales or whether they were making money. And so it's just a matter of time. And we knew with Best Buy that we were competing with 21st South. So it was going to be just a matter of time before Best Buy either closed 21st or it closed Murray. And it was pretty obvious to us as we saw what was going on that Best Buy poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into revitalizing the 21st South store, even though our store was neck and neck in sales every year. But it was pretty obvious to us that Best Buy, based upon how we were working with them, that when their lease came up, that they were going to either try to cram down their lease or they were going to close the store altogether. The one thing that I will say is that Best Buy, the only reason Best Buy would stay where it's at is if they were to come back and I were to agree to lower their rent to where basically they're nothing more than a distribution center or a warehouse, because that's basically about where their rents are right now. We're getting rents out of industrial distribution centers, which is the same amount of money that we're getting out of Best Buy in Murray for the rent. One thing that you need to remember, and that the citizens don't understand, is that the sales tax revenue from Best Buy, it's not going to leave Murray City when it's bought online and it's shipped to the residents in Murray. The sales tax revenue is still going to go to Murray. We're working very diligently already with Barnes & Noble. The gentleman that took Barnes & Noble over as the CEO was the gentleman that was from England. How many of you remember the movie You Got Mail with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, The Shop Around the Corner? Well, that's basically what he's doing is he's doing the reverse of what happened in that store. And he's taking all of the stores and then making them more boutique. And that's what we're going to try and do at 53rd. We're just trying to get ahead of the curve ball because it's in about 2 years that all this is going to take place when Best Buy is going to come to us and either try and cram us down on our rent even further to get us to try and allow them to stay, which we won't be able to afford it because it wouldn't be able to cover the cost based upon our debt coverage ratio with our lender. And so when we went to our lender was thrilled to death that we were basically approaching them 2 years before our loan was coming due and being proactive in trying to do something with the center that would make a big difference and including retail in our project still. We don't think, and I can't give you an exact number and I won't know until we get to the point, but we don't think that the retail is going to drop by a whole lot. Let me address just real quickly the traffic. There's been a lot of people talk about, you throw in 300. And by the way, we've never, even from day one, when I was before the city council, I think 7 months ago, where they said under the current zoning that I could do 1,000 units. And I said, I'm not interested in doing 1,000 units. And I said, I'm not even interested in doing 500 units. I'm still not interested in doing 500 units. The most units that we would do there right now is probably somewhere around 355 units. One of the things that happened is that I watched closely and listened to some of the citizens in Murray. And one of the things that I learned from this citizen is that I am developing down in Lehigh where Silicon Slopes, as you know, is really outpaced even Silicon Valley. And, that is just full of millennials. And so we always heard that millennials wanted to be very transient, being able to pick up and move whenever they wanted to. And this particular citizen said to me, no, I don't believe that's true. I think millennials do want to own. And so we went and researched it and we found out that she was correct. And so we took it and said, let's do a mixture of both apartments and let's go in and also add some condominiums. We've got a design that later on that we'd like to show you. In the back here, you'll see a parking structure. That parking structure has parked cars for 300 stalls. Guess how many stalls are used on a daily basis? Less than 100. 200 parking stalls are not being used. We're adding, with our new design, depending on how it changes, we would be adding another 300 stalls on top of that. So there would be over 600 stalls with what we're doing. Yes, I'm sorry.
Is your mic? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. That's
okay.
better.
Sorry about that. Did you get the last part about the parking? Yeah, so we have 300 car parking structure in the rear, and on an average day, there's only about 100 cars over the last 15 years that use that parking structure. So there's 200 parking structure stalls that go unused almost every day at the point of 53rd, because we encourage the employees of the tenants to have their employees park back there. The second level is a complete secured area that we can get cards for the employees, but they're just not used. We averaged, prior to COVID-19, when I opened this center, we were the most successful shopping center in Salt Lake. Our average occupancy was 98%. We never had vacancy higher than 2% for all the way up until COVID-19. And now in our office tower, we're 85 to almost 90% vacant. And so it has just absolutely devastated the office market. Is really taken a hit. And so we don't believe that we'll tear the office down, we will most likely be giving the entire shopping center a complete new face look, where it'll look completely different than it does now. But most every store that you see there now will stay. There are a couple that are probably going to leave. Mimi's Mimi's in Murray is their last store that they have in Utah. They've closed every other store, and that's always been their best store. They closed last week, I think, because of some supply issues, but they've got less than 2 years on their lease, and I doubt very much that Mimi's will probably renew their lease. But we have a half a dozen restaurants that I'm happy to name, if you'd like, that are interested and would take Mimi's space tomorrow. And we have other restaurants that want to come in. We have other retailers that want to come in. And so we're excited about this change. We're excited about the project. We're excited about what it can end up being. And as far as the traffic study that was referred to, how many here thinks that adding 355 stalls and taking away Best Buy and Barnes and Noble, is the traffic count and going to go up, or is it going to go down? By a show of hands, how many think the traffic study is going to go up if we take it out? Okay.
I'm guessing down because of the way you're asking it.
That's right. That's right. It goes down 2,000 cars a day. 2,000.
What was that again? How many?
2,000 cars a day. And that was done by Hell's Engineering. He doesn't work for us, independent, traffic engineer. And he did some work for us in Lehigh that was really detrimental to our project. And so we used him, because, he heard us before, and we wanted to get somebody that we knew that would not be biased. And, he went in and his report shows, based upon what we've done, that it's 2,000 less cars per day. So what's that? Oh, yeah. This is just a look, but I don't want to say this is what it's going to look like. Okay. I just want to go through a couple of quick things here and then open it up to public comment. I would like the opportunity, after the public's gotten up, to come back up and to be able to answer any of the comments that they make. But as you look at this, retail is changing. Speed and convenience are the two core qualities that define a shopping experience, up close and personable. Personalization will be the difference between retailing in the future. The easy buy, easy pay, when you're online, buy now, pops up. Mobility in and out of the store, small is beautiful. Anyway, we can go on and on. But our intent is, we approached IHC. I knew Tom Urione. Tom turned 70 this last year and was forced into retirement. He was head of real estate for IMC. And we approached Tom because I knew him quite well. He dated my ex-wife, so, we weren't the best of friends. But I asked Tom, I said, Tom, would you be willing to have the hospital work with us to get a pedestrian bridge from the center over to IMC? He says, Gary, there's only one spot that we have that'll work. We've looked at it before. And so we've already reached out to IMC, talked to them, met with them, and they're very much supportive of us getting a pedestrian bridge from our center over to the other side of State Street, so that people are able to get to Front Runner, to Trax, and the transit, and take care of that. There was another thing. These are just a sample of the number of the stores that are closing. I mean, Pier 1, Borders Books, Gordman's, Sports Authority, Dress Barn, Toys R Us, Kmart. This is what doing nothing looks like, okay? This right here is 78 South and Redwood Road. All right, that's a do nothing, okay? I live at 9450 South off of Redwood Road, way down in, but this has been like this for 7 years. Okay, Kmart has been closed for 7 years and no one has done anything with it. Shopco is closed. Granite Furniture just opened up recently and it was closed, and it's now a rifle range or something like that. And Albertsons that was closed. It was an Asian supply place, and I went in there the other day, and they've now broken the space up into 3 or 4 places and have 4 different companies out of that one space because it's just mom and pop, and they're not going to survive. It's not long term, and it's not something that I think Murray City would be proud of, and I don't think it's something that Murray City would want to have. So the one thing I want to get to really quick, and that is this slide right here, community involvement. We want to, the reason why approval is so important to us now is because we have 2 years to get this right because of our lender. If we don't get approval, we can't spend the money that's necessary because we don't know whether or not it's going to be approved. But if we know that we're going to be able to get our density that we need and our multi-use that we need, we can spend the dollars that are necessary, and we can hold the meetings with the community, whether it's numerous or whether it's a selected group of community members that the council wants to choose to help design a shopping center and a livable, walkable area that they're proud of to be a part of. And we want their input. We want them to tell us what they want. We want to hear from them what they want to see. We don't want to just come in here and say, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to hear from the city council and the neighbors, but we can't do that if we don't know that we're going to be able to get the density that we're looking for. I'm going to give you an idea of what happened with this one individual that talked to us about having part of the multifamily be for sale product. So we went to our architect. Our architect came up with what I thought was a brilliant idea, and I hadn't seen it before. My brother said he'd seen it in another place. They took on the parking structure, our parking structure on what we have right now is completely hidden. But what he did is he took the parking structure and he wrapped it with townhomes in front of it so you couldn't even see the parking structure. And so people would drive in the parking structure, they would go up to the second level, pull into their 2-car garage and into their townhome from the 2-car garage from the parking structure. And then those that were in the apartment, they had parking, open parking, but it was still covered and secured parking that they had to have keys to get in the gate to get through to the parking area. We're going to have amenities. We're going to have conference rooms where people can work from home, but they're not in their apartments or they're not in their condos. But we'll take one of the floors in the office tower and we'll make that available for our tenants where they are able to go in there for free and be able to use it where they're able to do Zoom meetings, hold calls, and everything else that they need to do. And we want them, again, to make this a walkable, livable community. Do you have any questions that I can answer for you?
Council, should we open it up, or do you guys have any questions at this time? Okay.
I've just got one, if I could. You said that your office tower is almost vacant.
15, we had about 15.
You're not going to tear it down. What are you going to do with it?
What we would do with that is we talked to the it was fate. The architect that did the point at 53rd was ASWN. They lost all the CAD drawings through either it was a computer crash or something like that, and so we didn't have any CAD drawings. So we went and met with an architect by the name of Guillaume Belgique, and it just so happened that we didn't know it, but Guillaume Belgique was the architect that worked with ASWN and had started his own firm, and he had the CAD drawings for the office tower. The reason I tell you that is because he's the one that says that we can take those office buildings and change the facade on the front and easily convert those into studio and 1-bedroom condos or apartments. So that would be part of the housing component that we do. So with Barnes and Noble, again, they would be down below that, and we would be building above that as well. So they wouldn't be going out. We would just be building on top of them. So any other questions?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the public comment portion of the evening of this presentation. And again, you have 3 minutes to speak. We will be asking for your information here. So please make sure to get that in. And one last thing. Oh, please state your name and the district at the very least, please. Okay. Anyone that's willing to come up first?
Hello, Clark Bolin, District 3. In development in Murray, we have 1,271 apartments currently. Kmart with 421 apartments, and that'll feed into Parkside, which is already struggling. Vine Street, 130 apartments, which will feed into Parkside with only 137 parking spaces. 4,800 South Lofts, 371 apartments. Bonneview property, 350 apartments. In the 2021 Murray Transportation Master Plan, it shows the 49th Street Galleria property is planning on 1,200 to 2,600 apartments. In addition, we now have requests before us, zoning changes that would allow up to 913 more apartments. And unfortunately, we can't consider the specific project. We can only consider the zoning changes that will allow up to 913 more apartments. I know even more commercial properties are considering adding density through mixed-use zoning. I'm sure everyone here knows of more properties that are being developed that I didn't mention. Murray has a very desirable location with amazing access. We will experience an outsized aggressive demand by developers to add density to our city all the time. This growth could have major effects on traffic, schools, water, police, and fire resources, and this growth could have a major impact on our identity as a city. We need to take this growth by the reins now and consider what is best for Murray as a whole. We need to carefully determine where density should go and where it shouldn't, and on what timeline it should be added. A master general plan should be revised every 5 to 10 years. It has been 5 years since we started our last revision, and we have an unprecedented need. And as luck would have it, and good planning, we have a budget surplus. We will have new city leadership in less than a month, and it seems rather serendipitous and at the same time crucial that we revise our master plan now. I implore the council to consider making a budget amendment to pay for an official revision to the master plan and not approve any more zoning changes that would increase our density until we have thoroughly evaluated what is in the best interest of our great city now and for many, many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel Moreau, District 4. I'm going to build on what Clark said because I agree with it, but I also think that the nuance needs to be added that when someone is invested in the community the way that Gary has with the point at 53rd, and I had to learn this because I'm from Holiday and I didn't spend a whole lot of time down here on State Street in this area, but I do remember that it was a blighted sector of the city, and it has been drastically improved, and it is a place that people like to go and spend time and shop. And I think, in fact, I know because my husband's in tech that the future of shopping is changing. It is going virtual. There are going to be showrooms where people can go and look at products, maybe even holographic representations of products and interact with them. And then they will order online. This is true of Best Buy. I know that my husband likes to go to the 21st South location rather than the Murray location because it has more stuff and it's better stocked. So I don't think it's right that someone who's invested in the community and has built business that serves us all is now being told that they have to take a loss on their business. Conversely, I don't think it's right that the citizens have to accept any amount of density that is proposed. And I would call on the city council to not approve the maximum density that can technically be allowed by the acreage and the number of apartments that can fit per square whatever in the proposal. I think that there has to be a middle ground, and it has to be a compromise on the side of developer. It has to be a compromise on the side of the citizens, and it has to be voiced by our representatives, you on the city council. And I definitely think that citizens have to be involved in this conversation. And I'm looking forward to the new administration that we have incoming that will give us the opportunity to do that. Because if you build goodwill within the city with the citizens, by taking into account their design ideas, which I believe Gary is on board with, and taking into account their concerns about density and all of the other issues that have been brought up, and those are actually seriously addressed, not at the expense of the community, but with their voice included, I think that Murray can indeed become an iconic city. And it can be different. It can be an example to all the other cities that are trying to figure out what they're going to do with growth in the future. If we do this right, and we do this with everybody involved, we can be the hub, we can be the standard for Salt Lake Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Again, please state your name and at least your district.
Janice Strobel, District 3. Okay, so I do think that Gary Hallen has, with what we know at this point, has worked very hard on developing a thoughtful plan for his proposed project. And I commend wanting to reimagine this project to being able to move forward and be a more viable part of the community with the way retail is changing and all. But we're not talking about the proposed project tonight. And that's, that's kind of the restraints that we're under because of state law in that. We have to approve zoning. We can't look at the project in the zoning. And we have to look at the maximums that the zoning that is available allows. And it's not on. Okay, good. Oh, darn it. There was one more thing I was looking at to say. So we've got a scary intersection, and adding increased pedestrians, which is what we want for mixed use in this area, is going to be tricky. And it needs to be addressed rather than we look at the property and we don't talk about the adjoining streets. We're called it because it's near a major transportation corridor. That sounds like cars to me. Doesn't sound like much pedestrian when we talk about a major transportation corridor. So I'm sorry, but we can't approve it because, it's a state law that's given us this. And so we can't feel pressured to approve it because the zoning doesn't match what is being wanted.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Again, state your name and district.
Jeff Collette, District 5. I was the lone person that raised my hand, and I knew it was a baited question about the parking. I'm out the study, but I raised anyway. And really, I just have a question. I'm kind of a numbers guy, so the numbers don't make sense to me. I don't dispute the study, but when you have 300 parking structure and you're going to add 325 more to it, and then you tell me that Best Buy and the retail is going down and less people are going, and you're going to add that much more to it, 400 units or 350, and traffic's going to go down by 2,000. I just want to know how that's going to happen. If you can explain that to me, because like I said, I'm a numbers guy. Those numbers don't make sense. That's it.
Thank you. And we will have anything addressed at the end as well. Next, again, if you can fill out your paperwork with Patty or Jennifer, that would be great. Thank you.
Kate Sturgeon, District 5. Mine's an addendum to the earlier comments that I made. I forgot, and because it's not
welcome back
directed towards Mr. Howland. But I respectfully ask the city to scrap whatever modeling system you're using because it doesn't work. Traffic is abhorrent. We have several new projects in our area. Visibility out onto a fast thoroughfare doesn't work, but the modeling said, oh, it's fine. So I would just respectfully see if there's a new program out there, because the one we have is not doing what needs to happen if we're going to have the growth, if we're going to have these other things going on. You have many traffic nightmares, and cars aren't going away because we're not doing any kind of real active transportation in this city at this time. So we have to look forward, not just at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Delenn Barney, District 3. I'm still concerned about how the number of apartments or the people are going to impact on the Murray City Park. And this particular agenda item is dealing with the zoning, not the approval of the particular project as I understand it. So as with the hospital discussion that was discussed earlier, they're just looking at one particular property where before it was in 4 different zones. So why don't we focus on what's happening with the, not the development, but what could possibly happen within this particular project and the impact it will have on the community, on the parking, on the traffic. And when I was looking at those pictures of that development, I could just see that road going through Murray Park as a thoroughfare rather than a nice place for people to enjoy the park with. That also said, when I was younger, I did go to that Fountain of Youth. Obviously, it didn't work, so I've gotten older. But I also do remember taking some pictures of that plaque. I don't know whatever happened to it, but there was a memorial plaque there indicating some historical event that had taken place there. I don't know if it was destroyed or if anyone knows what that was or what it made reference to. And I'd be interested in finding a way to get some of those pictures that he showed or find out where there is access to stuff like that. I've lived in Murray since 1963, but prior to that, I lived in a number of different mobile home parks as I grew up, and in some ways I feel incensed that people are degraded because they lived in mobile home parks. People should be looked at themselves as intrinsically, not extrinsically, as far as what area they live in. I do appreciate your time and the comments that other people have made about the proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I welcome anyone else. Oh, no, not yet. We have to go through the public hearing and then we have to close it. But go ahead and come on up.
Beverly Krangle, District 5. In the November Murray Journal, there was a discussion about the dire straits of power in our delivery of power to our citizens. And with all of these impending units that are being built, 2,500 plus and another 1,000 here and another 500 there, do we have power even to power the hospital? And then we're adding life-saving cancer products. Will they have power for their oxygen tanks or their medical supplies? I mean, we really have to look at the power and other resources, as well as redesigning our traffic. And as an earlier spokesperson said, we have to rethink how people get from one place to another, and encouraging people to ride bikes and walk to school, especially all the Safe Routes to School programs. Granite School has a SNAPS program trying to get kids to walk and bike to school. Right now, if you go to any school, you'll probably see hundreds of cars hovering around start and stop times. And if we're adding more school kids to all of these projects, we have to think of more safety for getting our children to and from schools. All of these projects are near or close to schools. There's a street project right now where I live, and it will impact 3 elementary school schools, children of 3 schools, and a high school. We've got early morning activities for school. We've got late after school programs. It's dark in those times. And now we have electric cars that don't make a sound. You cannot hear them coming. And, you know, just a few weeks ago, my husband saw a woman in the trail crossing Vine, a car, and that had a motor on it and it had noise. And so she heard it and jumped out of the way. So she barely he was shocked that she didn't get hit. So the safety issues, we have to look at the transit programs. We have to develop some transit as one of the major resources. Do we have all the other resources to service all these new citizens of Murray, prospective citizens, that will fill all these units? I really implore you to look at Vision Zero, Zero Death, the federal programs, 20 safety guidelines to reducing all these deadly accidents. They're just being ignored by all of the engineers and architects of our streets and sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Please come up. Yes. I remember at one point there was a line. We can form a line if you would like.
So Mike Cajano again, District 3. Just a couple of things. I appreciate you've got revenue you've got to recoup, you've got investments you've got to make. I like the idea of, pride of ownership, right? I think that addresses a lot of the concerns. We talk about studies and things like that, but you don't, nothing here says, okay, we'll take a look at impact on schools. One of them, the gentleman in front of me had a bullet point up where it says, potentially you had to do some of these other studies, right? And so for the folks up front, all you can do and say yes, no, based off of 420 units. That's really the only power that you guys have, unless there's a way to come back from that. That's what I'm hearing from this is you either say yes on 420 or you say no. That's kind of the in-between that I'm hearing. So I just like to take a look at a little bit more of the intangibles rather than just, how many cars are going to be here, which I agree, the numbers don't jive in my head. So I'm glad somebody else brought that up before me. So I'd like to think a little bit more about that. You take a look at some of the areas where there's ownership, they're typically kept up a little bit nicer. This is not a blight that or a backhanded comment at renters, right? I've rented, I think at some point most people have, so it's not a slight at that. It's just moved in 5 years ago. Feels like a little bit of a bait and switch to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and now we're going to change this, and things are going so rapidly. So I understand you guys are in a tough spot, and it's a kind of a yes/no decision for you guys. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and thank you for coming. Hopefully you guys can take some of these comments to heart. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. All right.
Brian Brimley, District 3. Just to piggyback on what Mike's saying and to reiterate what I've said, the impact on the schools, specifically Parkside, this would impact Parkside. Doug, I know you said you went there, and I would invite you to go visit and talk to the employees of Parkside, hear what their concerns are, so that you can hopefully tailor that in your.
You know what? You need to.
Well, sorry. You need to address your questions to us and avoid the side comments.
Okay.
Just he'll have an opportunity. Yeah. No.
To
It's
extend
okay.
an invitation to all of you and anybody present to visit the schools and talk to the employees and hear what their concerns are. They are real and they need to be addressed. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anybody else have a public comment? Please come on up. State your name again and your district.
Leanne Parker Reed for District 3. We've talked a lot about progress moving forward, millennials moving whatever, but I think we've left out a portion of our community, which is our elders. We do have the new senior living center just off on State Street now, but a lot of them.
Sorry, can you speak up to the mic?
Sure.
Sorry.
Anyway, we have that new center there, and we are doing other things for our elder population, but I know that they like to shop in person, not always virtual. So I think we need to take that into consideration as well. And they've been through the school system. They know, a lot of that, and they're a good resource for us. And I think we should consider them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have a comment for this public hearing? I just want to remind everyone that we don't have item number 5, which was the R.C. Willey location. So that item has been removed. Anyone else before I'll count it down? 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and now close the public hearing for this agenda item and open it up for discussion. Would the council like discussion first before we open it up back to the questions, or have Helen address the questions that were asked? Okay. Helen, if you can come back up and then go ahead and address some of those concerns from citizens.
Just a couple points that I wanted to make clear. The traffic engineer is the one that provided the study. So, all I can do is rely on that. And at the end of the day, we, if approved, as part of the approval process, we have to do another traffic study. If the traffic study doesn't pass, then the number of units have to decrease or something else has to change. But I just can't emphasize enough that it is so vitally important as a developer to know well beforehand that you have a viable project on what you can do. Otherwise, instead of 2 years from now finding out, okay, it's ready to go forward, it's going to take us another year to 2 years before we can make it happen. I'm developing down in Lehigh 92 acres from I-15 and 92, where the Porsche Audi dealership is, all the way past the hospital to Young Living. We developed the hospital and the skilled nursing facility, and we are working on that. Tina, who works with me, we're on our 111th site plan. And so why this is so important to us to get approval is so that we can get this community involvement and the citizen groups together so that we can meet with them. I just want to just give you one quick example. This very thing happened in Bluffdale City. Everything that was west of Redwood Road, all of the candidates there said, we don't want anything other than 1 acre lots west of Redwood Road. We did a large development on 2700 West and Bangor Highway. It was all industrial distribution space. There was a 5 acre piece of ground behind the church that was landlocked, and they wanted to sell it. And so we suggested to do industrial space, and there was just a public outcry like you'd never heard before. And so we just suggested to the city, let us meet with the neighbors, let us sit down with them and come up with what they're willing to live with, and we'll work with them and we'll come back to you with what they're willing to support. And we did that, and it's successful. And Dana's been working on it now for over a year, and we're ready to break ground, but we did it through a community group hearing, which the community and those that it impacted the most had input on what we did. I have absolute zero problem. I said this the last time I was here 7 months ago. Limit me tonight on the number of units. You know, I realize, you know, that you're saying, you know, what the zone is. Can they not hear me? Because it's on. Am I? Okay. So, I mean, limit me. Tell me, say, you know, we're limiting you. We want about 350 to 365 apartments. I just say, we'll approve this tonight, you know, work with the city council, work with the planning staff, work with the neighbors, and limit it to the 365 units. I have no problem with that. I have no desire whatsoever to put in 500 units of apartments, even if I could. So, you know, don't penalize me for something that I don't want. I don't want. That's why I agreed to put this on hold. You all asked me 7 months ago, will you table this until we come back with another zone that worked? And what did I say? I said, yes. I said, I will table it so we can come back. I did what you asked me to do. And now I'm being penalized again, okay, by saying, well, you know, he can do this. I'm telling you, I'm not doing that. Have we gone so far and have we fallen so far that we don't take people for their word anymore? I mean, seriously, I just don't get it. I don't understand when I'm sitting here in a public hearing that's being recorded and is a public record, when I'm going on record saying I will not go more than 365 units, and even less if it doesn't work, why that can't be approved so that we can move forward working with the citizens, like what Rachel said, as far as coming up with a walkable, livable community that is going to not just be a parking lot, that's going to have open areas out in those places for people to sit down and to eat at picnic tables and different things. It's a complete different design, a complete different layout than what we're currently talking about. I think my brother Dave had a couple things he wanted to say.
I would say maybe even 5 to 10 more minutes, and then that way we can.
A couple quick comments. My name's Dana Howland with Howland Partners. Gary didn't finish saying, on that Bluffdale project, what we ended up with was a 55 and over single adult community with 30 or 28 homes or 32 homes. And it was by listening to the neighbors and having those community meetings that we were able to come up with a project that the neighbors actually went to city council and were in favor of and told the city council to vote for it because it was something that we worked together on. A couple of things. One of the things in that very first slide that Gary showed, there was a quote there, and I just want to reference this. It says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that was by Abraham Lincoln. And we're at a point where we have to create our future or it's going to be made for us. Gary showed you the pictures of the empty Kmarts, the empty Targets, the empty Shopcos. I mean, how long has Shopco down at 59th South and State been empty? I mean, I'm like Gary, I'm a Murray boy. I went to Parkside as well. Our whole family went to Parkside. We grew up by the cemetery and went to the white church there that was torn down. Yeah, they probably wouldn't hate me still. Well, no, I'm just kidding, Gary. Anyway, and just talking about the traffic and what can be done with the traffic. Jared showed us a slide on locations of where is this product best suited for. And he showed on his slide that, 53rd and State, there's not a better location in Murray to put a mixed use development where we already have a viable commercial product that we can add this mixed use to it to make it work. We don't have to start from scratch to make it work. We can make it work now. The other issue that was brought up was traffic control. I mean, if we're able really with IMC to do a pedestrian bridge, even without the pedestrian bridge, we've got, how far, are we from the track station and Front Runner to be able to utilize? Everybody's talking about, let's do something with traffic. I mean, what better location is there in Murray than what the point at 53rd is to alleviate those traffic concerns? And I think that this is a great opportunity to predict our, to build our own future and not let our future happen to us. It's better to act than to be acted upon. And I would just recommend that you pass this, and hopefully we can, with the city council's help and with the community's help, build an amazing project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Council, any other discussions?
Can I ask? Okay. I came in, Jill, I'm going to address this to you, but this was such a different zoning than the regular zone that we had been done previously. And I thought I asked questions like what maybe some of them have asked here, that couldn't we be more specific in certain areas? And I thought that's what this this village allowed, for us to be more specific with this, not the normal zone, but the village and center that we passed a few months ago. Yeah, I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing totally opposite. It's the same as every other zone that we do.
It really isn't. So let me do a better job of explaining how it's different. So that range of densities that's there, that's kind of where we get fixated. But there is the next step in the process is entitlement. You come in and ask for the project. And in most cases, you come in and ask for the project, and there's just a simple review, a conditional use permit, or whatever that might be. In this case, that master site plan project requires that you upfront that traffic study, so we kind of know what you think you can do before we ever review anything. Traffic study, parking evaluation, public services analysis. There was some comments about water, power, et cetera. That all gets analyzed first for us, so we have that data when we're going in. And as well as somebody mentioned that we had it, and I'm not going to get back to it fast enough, so I'll forget it. But we actually also have the ability to ask for other kinds of public services to be reviewed before that project entitlement goes into place. Schools, fire, police, impacts to services like that. And in this case, it's loud and clear we need a good conversation with the school district about what the impact here is. They're aware of the zone change, but we'd want to go much more in depth with what they would want to
Okay, so real quick, so say we talk to the school board, and they're saying, they're pretty reasonable when we visit with them.
Sure.
So what if we had a negative recommendation from the school board? I know that I know it's not their decision,
right,
and they know that. They've always been really good with us about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you.
But it's exactly the right question. Let's say that they have concerns about it in the school district. The one thing that you get to do with an entitlement like this, a site plan approval, a master site plan approval.
And this is totally different from what we've done.
Totally different than what we've done in the past. You get to mitigate impact. You get to impose conditions to mitigate impact. And those conditions can include the density. If the school district's concerns are such that we need to limit the density in some way beyond, we can do that by that master site. And we don't just do it in the approval. We do it with a master site plan agreement. The planning commission is going to look at this data and say, school district has this concern. Your parking that's being proposed can only go this far. We have concerns about the park and issues like that. We need to make sure that the density is no more than 350 units. Let's just use Gary's number. So 350 units is what we feel like works. Any more than that, we feel like that we find that the conditions can't, or sorry, that the impacts can't be mitigated. So then that master site plan agreement the planning commission can't approve that. You have to as a council.
But but that's something we get to do.
You get to
with
do that.
This particular zone.
You don't do in any other zone.
Right, no other zone. Right. But Gary was saying, well, just do that with me. And usually we say we can't do that. And you've heard some of the residents say you can't do that. And I thought, I don't think that's correct. With this zone, you can do that.
You're right. With this zone, we can do that. No, you can't do it tonight because we don't have any of that data in front of us telling us what that number could be. But yeah. But
Well,
exactly
legally,
right.
can we do that, Jill? I mean, could we put conditions on the zone?
You follow the ordinance is what you do. But what you're referring to is something that we've discussed in the past, but this is not that. What we've discussed in the past, you've talked about is a different process. It's not what you're referring to is not this process.
Okay, so it's not in this zoning.
Correct. So it's not them coming to you and you saying, this is what we'll accept, and then we'll change your zone.
No, I know that. I know we do the zone change tonight.
Yeah.
But like Jared said, you get the school board, whoever, and if there's concerns about, like you said, then it comes back to us, which it normally does not, and we have a say, as Jared said about
define a say, right? You're going to go according to the ordinance. This is not just arbitrarily whether you like it or not.
Okay, so does the ordinance allow what Jared just
reasonably
said?
anticipated impacts, and your response to them has to be appropriate. So you couldn't, for example, it wouldn't be reasonable to say, well, the ordinance says that you could handle, say, 421 units as a base. It would be reasonable for you to maybe say, in spite of the incentives that we've written in, we don't feel like you can go any higher than that because the traffic, the parking, et cetera, don't mitigate that. And in addition to that, we're going to need to be below 400 on this because of the concerns of school or fire or police or power or utilities of any way.
So really the question is the zone.
It is.
It's the zone, what can happen in that zone, what we've approved already from the moratorium, all of that. And then again, I guess my real concerns even before were the concerns even then after it's been approved haven't been addressed. So there's that part that's outside of your application necessarily, but how we move forward with this one,
right,
per se.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's some timing is part of it when we do.
And I'm not sure that we've really had the opportunity to address those concerns, those issues. We were going to, but we have not.
We haven't done any of that yet. No,
we have not, and that's my concern with this zone. I mean, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. I think we need to really decide what it is we want to do, decide our focus, and I'm just not okay with this mixed use zone.
Well, it's understandable to have concerns, absolutely, and we get those.
And the feedback I've received is just completely negative. And I want to make sure we have smart growth. That's been kind of my marching orders. So this really concerns me. And what we can deal with is zone change. We can't deal with the wonderful thing that you want to
accomplish,
develop because we don't know that that's going to happen or that you're even going to keep that property. So
and that's all true. The one thing that I would point out just once again is that what Brett mentioned, this does as a zone, although it's not perfect in any way, and we want to review some of those issues. This does have more safeguards than other zoning because it is. We recognize that going in, we need to be able to have some additional controls, a robust review process for the project itself. We did not front load that process prior to the zoning, and that was talked about at one time. We did not do that in this zone. We don't have to be finished talking about things. And in fact, like you mentioned, smart growth, and I've heard people say that tonight, and it's great to know that at least the one thing we all agree on as a group, as a city, as staff, as council, is that doing nothing is not the solution.
Right.
With any of these problems. And maybe we haven't got everything right. I do think in this case, given where Gary's property is and what's going on there currently, I'm confident that what we've written would handle the issues and deliver a great project. I just am. And so I'm going to continue to recommend for it, but I do understand your issues and concerns. Absolutely.
I have concerns. I mean, and I've already expressed this with,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, parking infrastructure, lack of affordable housing, lack of green space. I mean, all those issues still concern me. That hasn't changed.
And yeah, we haven't moved forward on addressing any of those yet. We've been
No.
processing these. So
Mhm.
we'll
That's-
definitely still do that regardless. That's a
Right.
task we take from you.
If we don't address those issues, and this is just kind of the process, if we don't address those issues, and right now, currently, if this was approved, it would be approved under the current.
Yes.
Code,
would
correct?
be, if you act on it tonight, the zone changes to CMU under its current form.
Sorry about the helicopter.
Yeah. So if it's approved tonight for a zone change, then the zone that is applicable is the CMU as it stands today, regardless of what changes we make in the next little while. If we look at it again as a city, as a council, and make changes to how we address mixed use, my main concern is from an economic development standpoint and from a community development standpoint that we not stop looking at how to address the issues that we are going to see that Gary pointed out very well tonight
gonna do that.
in commercial. And this is a good first step. And I think Gary's project would be good. Even given the allowances of the current zoning. I wouldn't have recommended them to you in July if I didn't feel like they were workable. If we need to pull them back, we can work on that going forward. But I think they're absolutely workable on Gary's property at State Street.
If I might, this is my last meeting, and I'd like to have it over before midnight. But I would recommend that the next council relook at these zoning amendments, because we didn't get what we asked for, and all 5 of us up here know that. We got a portion of what we asked for, but we didn't get what we asked for in the moratorium, and it isn't Gary Hallen's fault. He's been very patient. He's not some developer from Brooklyn, New York, or San Francisco. He's somebody in Murray that has, or Portland. Good one. He's somebody that has a decades-old track record, and what he's trying to do is save his business model. And as we jack around these, he's already waited 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, and we still haven't got the damn zoning that we asked for. It's not his fault. He can't wait another 6 months, 8 months, or a year and save his business model. I think it's behooving on us to look at this project as he has presented it. He's given us more information than most developers would, and move forward with his project. And the next council that comes in, somebody will be sitting in your seat, somebody will be sitting in my seat, go back to the drawing board and make sure the next time we revamp these zoning, we get what we asked for. And it's just that simple, but it's not his fault.
Could I add something to that? So we have an application in front of us tonight that is entitled to a decision.
I agree.
You can't make any changes now or in the future for this application. So what is written now is what is decided upon when you make a vote, and that he's entitled to a decision.
If I can jump in. So I think a lot of the concerns are that about the process, about we're voting on a zone change. And I think Jared did a great job of explaining like all of the studies that we're going to look at, all of the impact issues, and that's going to impact.
It's going to have an effect.
Have an effect on that end product. So it's really important to keep that in mind tonight when we're voting. I just want to speak to a couple of things. Thank you to everyone from Parkside who came out to talk on the crowding issue. My kids go to Yuma, and we have kids from out of district coming because they don't have enough Murray kids there. So I think that there's some district issues at the school district level where we need to maybe redraw some lines and figure out which schools kids are going to. And obviously the study will have more information about that. But every school in Murray is not at capacity. Like that's not what's happening. The school superintendent has spoken to that in meetings. We've all heard that reflected at different meetings. I just think it's really important we support an evolving retail commercial economy. It's changing. We have to allow our our community to keep up with that. I think it's really important to enable the development of middle income housing. I'm hearing like it doesn't solve, affordable housing or low income. Like not every project's going to, but it's going to provide more housing that's affordable to more people. And I heard a lot about the environment and walkable communities and traffic issues. Mixed use is designed to be a walkable community. Mixed use is designed to have people live where they shop, where they play, and that's building these, allowing these is going to improve that in our city, I believe, from what I've read and studied. I know change is hard, change is scary. I know lots of people personally who have asked me in the last 6 months, when do I get to live above Barnes and Noble? They're watching that property and they want to know when they get to move in, and they think it sounds amazing and they can't wait. So they didn't come out tonight because they're into it. So they were like, take care of it. It'll be fine. But those voices are out there. But I think when you're pleasant or like pleased with something, it's harder to have the energy to come out to talk about it than when you're not. And there were so many good points made today and good concerns, but I think they will be addressed in the process as it is. So I feel very comfortable with this zone change. And I think it is, our job is the best use for land. And I truly feel mixed use is the best use for this property at this time.
All right. Thank you. Any other discussion, council? Okay. I will, I guess, take a motion. Is that where we're at?
I'll make a motion. I move we adopt an ordinance relating to land use, amends the general plan from general commercial to village and center mixed use, and amends the zoning map from CN to CMU for the properties located at 5283, 5217, 5157, and 5177 South State Street, and 151 East, 5300 South, Murray, Utah.
I'll second it.
All right. I got a first and a second. Brooke?
No.
Aye.
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 No. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you again, everyone, for being here tonight. Again, you do have many opportunities to continue this process and have more opportunities for participation as well. We're going to go ahead and move on to business item number 1. We're going to try to move through these pretty quickly. So thank you again. Brenda, we're going to go ahead and start with Brenda. Consider a resolution to acknowledge the completion of receipt of the annual comprehensive financial statement for fiscal year 2020 to 2021 and direct the notice be published pursuant to section 10-6-152 of the Utah Code. Brenda Moore.
Hello. So I had a 40-minute presentation all prepared, and everybody's leaving. Everybody's leaving, and I'm talking about something that's like $45 million. That's
exciting.
Brenda, would you like to postpone your presentation?
No, this is quick.
You want me to go bar the doors?
No. So every year we are required to prepare a financial statement by Utah law and have it audited. Earlier today we talked.
Sorry, Brenda, we're going to go ahead and excuse Brett. Brett has to leave.
Okay. So we received our report. You guys have all gotten a copy of the financial statement. One will be posted on the internet on our website tomorrow morning. And then what's before you now is just a resolution that says you have received it, and then requesting that Brooke, as our recorder, publish the in the newspapers or wherever it's required to be published these days, and post to the public that it is available for them to either come get a copy or to get off of our website. So that's all you're doing tonight. It's just a little resolution saying you have received this. We did receive a clean audit opinion. I am pretty positive that this will also get the GFOA award for outstanding financial presentation, because we make sure that we follow all of the rules and do all of the things that they like to see in the financial statement. So that's it.
All All right. Thank you, Brenda.
I just want to say, in our finance meetings, we got amazing reviews on Brenda in the audit. And so just can't do enough shout outs to Brenda even after 10 p.m. So we just love her that much. She keeps us in really good shape.
Thank you, Brenda. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to item 2 from
I think we can vote. Do you
Oh,
want a
sorry.
motion?
We need a motion. We need a motion.
I'll give you one. You want one?
I'm done, obviously. So
No, you aren't.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Unlike Dale over here.
This guy's done.
All right,
Oh,
let me
you
go.
aren't.
Let me go ahead and consider a motion.
I would like to move that we adopt a resolution to acknowledge completion and receipt of the annual comprehensive financial statement for fiscal year 2020 to 2021 and direct the notice be published pursuant to section 10-6-152 of the Utah Code.
I'll second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Go ahead, Brooke.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and now move to item number 2 on the business item of our agenda. Consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city, Salt Lake County, and Salt Lake City Corporation for Brownfield's assessment grant. And Susan will be presenting. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll make this quick, hopefully. Murray City has been participating with the county and Salt Lake City previously for the previous few years in Brownfield assessment grant that was to the tune of $600,000. We've now spent those monies, and we are now on round number 2. So this request is for the council to consider a resolution to adopt the interlocal agreement, which then allows the Brownfield Coalition to proceed with dispersing those $600,000 for our next grant. For those of you who don't know, the Brownfield Assessment Grant, we do inventory of properties within our jurisdiction, site selection, and do assessments phase 1, phase 2, environmental studies basically on property. And as we all know, Murray City has our fair share of contaminated properties. So this is huge for us. The time period for the grant and the interlocal agreement is started on October 1st and will expire September 30th of 2024. It's a 3-year time. Oops, excuse me. And the coalition, as I said, is part of Salt Lake City, the county, and Murray City are part of that coalition. We have 2 members from each agency, plus the county has an additional member which manages the program. So there's a total of 7 voting members. I am one of them, and we have another member from Murray, which is our new engineer, Carlos Montoya. He is also on the board. So as I indicated, the purpose is basically to facilitate to spend those monies to help redevelop properties that are contaminated. Typically, they are commercial ones. They are ones that are underutilized, blighted, etc. And this is just a catalyst for us to help potential developers. It's really a great program to help potential developers that we may think are coming down the line. So the key players are in the coalition board, as I said, the 7 members, voting members. The EPA funds the program. It's funded by EPA, so there are no city funds involved with this at all. It's all EPA funds. Also, it is administered through Salt Lake City, the manager there. They are the ones that do the paper shuffling. We, as members on the committee, can provide properties, and we submit the applications for certain properties, which are then forwarded to the EPA. The EPA either approves or not, sends it back to us. Once we get that approval, then we proceed with our contracted consultant, which is Terracon Environmental. They will do the assessments, and we spend the money to pay them. So we are contracted with Terracon, who will do all the assessments for the program. I'm really breezing over this, but
Susan?
Yes.
Could you speak into the microphone a little bit?
Oh, wow. Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, wow. Okay, do you need to repeat any of that? Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Which middle was that? So our goal as the coalition is we anticipate having 18 phase 1 reports, 12 phase 2 reports, and 6 cleanup plans that would take up to $600,000. And we prioritize those properties. We submit them based on priorities. It's kind of interesting. I served on the last grant, which was from 2019, actually, that expires within next October. So the two programs overlap by 1 year. But we were so good at spending the money, we had it spent less than 2 years. In fact, it was 18 months that we had the $600,000 spent between us, Salt Lake City, and the county. So that's great. That's the intent is we want to spend the money and get these properties redeveloped. And I will show you a list of where that money was spent here in just a second. So we want to have potentially 18 phase 1s, 12 phase 2s, and then 6 cleanup plans. When we submitted our application, which was over a year ago, we had to kind of indicate what areas we thought were going to be the area of our focus for each municipality. For Murray, we put in the Central Business District, which is the downtown smelter site area. That does not obligate us to stay specifically with that area. We can do any properties in Murray, but that was just, the basis of our application. We had to have some kind of an area indicated. So the grant that we just spent, I just included the projects for Murray. So of the $600,000, actually there's contractually $570,000 that is spent for the vendor, which was Terracon again. So this lists out where we have spent the money thus far. And actually there's only a couple $1,000s left, so it's basically gone. But as you can see, the properties that are listed from Think Architect to the Starwood Fire Clay, that's about 4,250 south, 100 west. The satellite property we didn't complete because the city, it changed developers in the meantime. So that one kind of went away. However, as you know, it is being developed anyway by a private developer. He flipped the bill for it instead of using the brownfield funds. And then there's the Murray RDA block and Box Elder Apartments, which is anticipated to be coming down the pipeline anytime for site plan approval for that project. And then we have also still to get our pre-demo survey for the Murray RDA area. Anyway, so the total expenses that we have spent in behalf of Murray City is $204,666 as of now. And there really is no funds left to spend. So the next budget, the new one that is being requested for this resolution, this is the anticipated budget. We are pretty much held to that. But it's regulated by EPA. They oversee it. We cannot adjust these dollar amounts in any of the columns whatsoever. So like there's the personnel, there's travel expenses, there's supplies, basic hard costs. And then the rest is spent for the environmental studies, which come to a total of $600,000. That's a very brief overview. So anyway, I am here to ask that the City Council consider the resolution which adopts the interlocal agreement for the brownfield assessment grants in the amount of $600,000.
All right.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I'll make a motion if you're ready.
Yes, I will take a motion.
I make a motion we approve a resolution approving the interlocal cooperation agreement between the city of Salt Lake County, between the city and Salt Lake County and Salt Lake City Corporation for Brownfields Assessment Grant.
All right. Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. I have a first and a second. Go ahead, Brooke.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Susan, for that presentation. And we'll go ahead and turn it over to the mayor's report.
I was going to do my part to get Brett on the road and decline to do a report tonight, but since he's already gone, I want to do my part to get the rest of us on the road. So I have no report tonight.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. All right. With that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right.
Thank you for all that remained.